Education, Tuesday, April 22nd, 2014, 7 p.m. Why am I oh. Candy, could you call the roll? I couldn't find it on my agenda,
Yes.
sorry.
We don't need one. Gaspar?
Here.
Hodge?
Here.
Impastato? Locke? Here. Stoops?
Here.
Dremel?
Here. Mr. Gasper, could you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Hitchens, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
There actually are some changes. First of all, in the consent agenda, section or item 5.4, the special meeting minutes were changed. The board members have the corrected minutes at their seats, but they're also correct online right now. But that item still exists. On the consent agenda, we would like to remove items 5.17, which is the BHS handbook. We're going to bring that back to you in May. And then 5.19, approval of employee benefit contracts. We're going to bring that back at a later time as well. And then the final change is that there is no closed session tonight.
Okay. Do I have a motion? Any other changes to the agenda? That was it, right? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? With the corrected minutes, the BHS handbook taken off, the benefit contracts taken out, and no closed session.
Second.
Moved by Blakely, second by Locke. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes. Our next item, I have so many things going on here. Yes. Our next item is going to be public comments. First, I'd like to know, do we have all the pink sheets? Kathy, do you know?
Yes, we do.
Excellent. Excellent, thank you. For our public comment section, if anyone wishes to address the board, please see Kathy Scafidi. She will give you our pink form. Apparently we have them all, but it has our board policy for addressing the board. If you would prefer to provide any written comments, Kathy can provide you a blue form. And when you address the Board of Education or Administration will not enter into any dialogues. That doesn't mean we don't take your issues seriously. If you have any unanswered questions, a board member or an administrator will get back to you regarding your matter at a later date. If you have any props or visual aids that you wish to use to address the board, please have those reviewed by Dr. Hitchens, our board elected secretary, prior to your presentation. And we ask that everyone that addresses the board to please come to the table so that you can be heard. And if anybody else at this point would like to address the board, we're going to ask that you do it on a blue sheet because we've collected all the pink sheets. The first person we're going to call tonight is Ellen Knaus. Yes.
I'm up here today to speak about one-on-one technology for the 21st century learning plan and the associated technology fees recommended to implement upon parents and students. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Gaspar and Ms. Impastato for meeting with me separately so that I could discuss my views on this. I really appreciate the time that they spent with me and listening to my concerns and having a valuable conversation regarding the matter. I support as much technology in the classroom that facilitates meaningful education, but one-on-one technology within itself does not equal meaningful education. I question the fiscal prudence of being on the leading, even bleeding edge of technology here in the western suburbs. Looking to other examples that have implemented one-to-one technology, specifically Chromebooks, I looked at some different school districts that have implemented such technology. Only one district is in its second year of technology that I researched. I researched 4 different groups: Main Township, the Main Township District, the Leiden District, the Niles 219 District, and the Glenbrook 225 District. All of those districts are high school only, and only one district is in its second year of implementation, which is Leiden. All the remaining ones implemented this year. And of those 3 that implemented this year, all 3 implemented incrementally or should I say, did not implement freshman through senior. They only implemented a portion of those groups. In regards to the financial fees that are recommended to be assessed to parents regarding technology, I looked at the registration fee comparison by district that was listed in the board docs for this meeting. And the problem is that registration fee in of itself is a difficult definition. Some districts see registration fee as an all-inclusive fee, and other districts see registration fee as a registration fee, but also assess other charges for consumables. So I would argue that the current registration fee of $90 for middle school and $119 is for my family $155 and $210, which almost puts the current fee assessment for my child to go to school on the first day at the proposed level. And to add $75 on that, quite honestly, brings Batavia on this list second to Barrington District 220. For example, when I did research on certain districts such as Huntley, Camelin, St. Charles, West Aurora, Geneva, and Indian Prairie, I found that Batavia assessed fees for the most consumable fees out of all the districts. Huntley and Camelin are inclusive. In fact, Huntley's district, if you pay before the first day of school, the fee is reduced by $50.
And we're at 3 minutes. Can you just summarize for us, Mrs. Counts?
Also, for those high schools that have implemented one-to-one technology, the least amount of insurance that they provided was $30 with a $100 deduction. So in conclusion, I am asking the board to consider staying within its means of its current funding, especially since there has been a tax levy that was implemented in December, not assess high fees to the parents, and look more to an incremental process in implementing one-to-one technology.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to invite Deb Rumpert to the table. Good evening.
My name is Debbie Rempert. I'm the mother of 2 children who attend 2nd and 3rd grades at Ellis Gustafson School. I attended last month's board meeting to share the concerns of a group of families that we have about the need to secure a 4th section for 4th and 5th grades at AGS. Our class sizes in the current 3rd grade level are just too large. Our children's learning and daily school experience is being impacted. This is a problem that must be solved. We are continuing to work with Dr. Wright to collect information and data specific to the problems our children and teachers are facing, and she has been a wonderful help. Here's just a reminder of the characteristics present in this class. This class as a whole has a multitude of social, emotional, and behavioral concerns. This is compounded by safety concerns for medically fragile children in the grade. Our class sizes are just too large, and our children in this grade level are in desperate need of a 4th section for 4th and 5th grades at AGS. We need your attention in this matter. We need your support to help our students and our wonderful teachers who face pressures and difficult decisions related to this overcrowding on a daily basis. Last month, the board approved hiring assistant principals after asking a principal who was in the audience what his thoughts were on the issue. He said it would be good, it would help him, particularly when he has to do reviews of teachers, which can take many hours to accomplish during a finite time of year. Last month, the board also approved coaching for teachers, with the implication that teachers should be able to take advantage of this service and they will benefit from it. There were teachers in the audience last month, but I didn't hear the board ask them if they thought the coaching is something they have the time or flexibility in their schedule to take advantage of. I also didn't hear the board ask the teachers how many hours they spend each day before, during, and after school working to keep up their lessons so their students in these overcrowded classrooms can grow and learn. I do hope the board will help with our overcrowding situation so the teachers may be able to take better advantage of the services you're approving for teachers and administrators in the Batavia schools. at this point as a parent who's in the school on a regular basis. I just can't imagine how they'd be able to pull themselves away from their overpacked schedules to take advantage of coaching. I hope I'm wrong, but when I see teachers in their classrooms at 8 or 9 o'clock some nights when I'm there for a PTO meeting, I really wonder how they can, and it makes me a concerned parent, not just for our students at AGS, but also for our wonderful teachers. At AGS, we do not have a sustainable situation for our current third grade students or our teachers. We have an urgent one. We have issues that need correction. We need your support as we seek this fourth section for 4th and 5th grades. We need your attention and your interest as we work to achieve approval for the additional section. We need help, and we're counting on you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone here from BESPA tonight who'd like to address the board? No? Then I'd like to invite Tony Millay, our BEA president, to the table.
They can get a seat. Standing room only. Just a few comments tonight. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Hitchens and the board for allowing flexibility on the final teacher workday, seeing how the snow days extended the year, allowing teachers to better use that time to more effectively perform their responsibilities is much appreciated. The next thing, as this board knows, we started negotiations last night, and I'm pleased to share with you that we felt although it's always rough to get started, we did get the ball rolling, and it was a very productive evening. So. And finally, the last thing I have, there's a book that's come out recently by Diane Ravitch called The Reign of Air. That Diane Ravitch was the Undersecretary, or a Undersecretary of State, Education, with George Bush when No Child Left Behind came out. And she has since decided how much harm that has done to American public education, and does a very good job explaining what has been happening to American public education. And as I read this book, I realized that Batavia is not immune to that. You know, between the emphasis on test scores that every district is facing, to the attacks from charter schools that we saw the groups trying to grab our dollars for our children. And unless we understand what's really happening in American education, our children are at risk. I think this is a very important book for everyone in education to read. So the association has purchased books that we'd like to give to each of the board members. I know Kathy and John, I've given you copies of them. And so if you didn't have anything to read, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Yeah, I gotta read this.
And anyone else, I highly recommend this book to understand what has been happening to our schools.
I started.
I just finished that one from Tony.
Wow, that was short and
That's
sweet.
all I've got
Thank you,
tonight.
John.
Thanks. All right.
We have no student ambassadors. Do we have anyone here from a PTO tonight that would like to address the board? No PTO, then I would like to invite forward the Batavia Foundation for Educational Excellence to talk about their grants.
Did they call in sick?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Chris Winkle, and I'm the chair this year of the Batavia Foundation for Educational Excellence. And I just want to thank you all for giving us an opportunity to once again recognize our teachers that put so much time and effort into the grant application this year. But beyond that, Nan will make you understand that we had overwhelming response this year. And maybe we plugged hard enough because everybody responded, which is wonderful. That's what we want. That's what we need. So beyond that, we've decided to start a new fundraiser this year. We have a pre-prom bowling and fun night at Funway the night before Batavia High School prom on Friday, May 16th. I won't go into detail with you. You're all, if you're interested, please go to our website and please take a look. But this is an event that we're hoping will bring some new interest, bring some new interest and support to our group. For years, we've had a wonderful golf outing, which has, had great support. But we kind of like to tap a new population, invite some new people in to have this experience with us and to support the foundation that way. So hopefully you can join us on Friday, May 16th. But I'm going to let Nan talk about the grants, and then we can divvy them out.
First of all, I would like to, as chair of the Grant Foundation Committee, I would again like to thank BATV because they were able to help us last Thursday go out and visit the classrooms of the winning grants. So we were able to surprise the teachers by walking into their classrooms and kind of epic manage with the prize control. So that's always a lot of fun. This was the second year we did it, and we can't do that without BATV's support, so that's fun for us. We also would like to especially thank Brad Newkirk and Tony Inglesi because they put in a lot of time answering teachers' phone calls before the grant submission date, going over the grants with the committee to make sure that we're supporting the goals of the district and being in full support of that. So Tony and Brad, thank you for all your time and effort that you put in to help us because we couldn't do it without you. This year, as Chris said, we did a great job. The principals did a great job. Brad did a great job getting the word out. We had 22 grants submitted for a total of $100,767. And we didn't have nearly that amount of money to give away. And not only was that just a wonderful amount of creativity and effort putting into writing these grants, but we wish we had been able to. So please go to the casino and bowling night so that we'll be able to give away more grants next year. Yes, we need that. We were just astounded with the quality of the writing and the wishes that were coming from the teachers to enhance their classrooms and support everything that's going on. And we think that's just very indicative of the quality of the teaching staff in Batavia, that they were able to write these wonderful grants. So thank you and congratulations to everybody, and we really wish we could have granted them all. So, going on, we would like to also thank Brad and Tony one more time because not only do they meet with the teachers and meet with us, but they listen. And even those grants that we were not able to fund, they have made a commitment to support financially if the teaching and learning and technology departments can work it in. So they listen, and I think that's commendable as well. So thank you. The grants, then, we would like to present to the following people. The first grant goes to the staff at the Early Childhood Center at Batavia Apartments. Actually, I didn't word that correctly. Early Childhood Center working at the Batavia Apartments over the summer to enhance early intervention activities with the preschoolers and their parents. And this goes to Leanne Rodriguez, Marilyn Corbus, and Jane McCullough. This grant is for $913, and I know it will go a long way. And we also want to introduce our helper from Batavia Apartments.
Sarah.
Sarah, who is working.
Instrumental to helping the children of the Batavia Apartments and getting them to attend our story time, and these materials will be so helpful, and Sarah's been so awesome to help us. Thank you.
Very good. Congratulations. goes to Laura Foote at Rotolo called Virtual Coaching. And this provides Laura with equipment. It provides her with equipment that she will be able to use in her feedback, providing materials or coaching instruction for the teachers. So congratulations. That was for $788.19. The next grant goes to Christopher Payne from Batavia High School. Payne. Excuse me, which is Payne? I wrote that.
Peyton.
Should we write the
Wrong
Christopher wrote a grant called Gardening with a Purpose, and his students are going to be using gardening to help with their social activities as well as a sense of accomplishment while watching their garden grow. So congratulations. I got Christopher Payne tonight. Old fifth grade teaching.
Like a librarian.
And that was for $739.22. The next one goes to Daniel Russo and Joanne Smith from the Friends of Batavia Public Library. They wrote a grant to help out the One Book, One Batavia project for 2015. We are granting $1,500 to help in the expenses of bringing the author to Batavia. And this seemed very exciting to us because it's, Dan can tell us more about the author, but it will focus on Mary Todd Lincoln and Lincoln writing and the history tied to Batavia. And so we see a great deal of commitment there. Thanks.
Thank you.
And the next grant goes to Diane Kisford from HC Storm. Diane's the Learning Center Director, and her grant was called Digital Age School Library. This will help her to reach all of her students by teaching media skills through the LRC instruction, and we granted her $4,606. From Storm is Jody Bird for the first grade team. She wrote a grant called Baggy Books for $2,500, which is going to provide emerging first grade readers with daily reading materials to practice at home. The next grant goes to Kayla Jenkins and Colleen Putton, first grade teachers at Louise White School, for a grant called Using Technology to Improve Student Feedback in the Classroom. This is for $3,995, and it is going to purchase 2 sets of Media Vote, which will provide them the opportunity to gather immediate feedback from all the students, as well as these materials also gather and compile data reports that they then can use in their teaching and teaching and monitoring progress for all of their students. So, congratulations. Also, we have a grant going to J.B. Nelson 5th grade called HP Chromebooks, written by Karen Scarr. This is for $10,000 and provides a class set of Chromebooks. And I know that after having seen some of the activities that are happening with Chromebooks, you're going to love it.
Thank you so much.
The last grant that we were able to issue this year goes to Grace McWayne, 3rd grade team, Nancy Hubbard, Sarah Meyer, and Eric Goop on Math Workshop Station Tech Time, which I believe is also Chromebook usage. So congratulations. That grant was for $5,399.84. So again, in order for us to be able to keep giving these grants, get ready, get your bowling ball ready, and we'll be back next year.
Before you leave, I see lots and lots of members of the foundation here, and I was wondering if you might call them up and just introduce them and acknowledge all the hard work that you guys have done. to be able to do these things. Oh, no.
We've got Jeff Robinson here. Karen Holden is also with us. She's here too. Nancy does a ton of work for us. She's instrumental to the foundation. And Dremel, of course.
Oh, thank you. And now I'd like to call Joanne Spritz up, who's going to update us on a couple of things. She wears many hats in our district.
Hi, I'm here with all good news and a huge thank you. And the biggest supporters of Chip In, which stands for Community Helpers Impacting People in Need, which was made by Raquel, which is awesome. The people sitting in front of me have been the biggest supporters from day one. So our community should know that. Teachers, our board, so supportive. So you are always the first ones to step up and help, so thank you. I have had the privilege and the honor to work with Lisa Galazi on this. She's kind of my boss. I work for free though. It's not my job. So come up here with me. She's a delight to work with. We've also had the honor to work with Sarah Perez, who's the resident social coordinator?
Resident service coordinator.
She's done an amazing job at the Batavia Apartments, and we have, I think, over 200 students there. So she's done an amazing job. So I'm going to whip through what we have accomplished in 7 months. And we now have 82 homeless students who have been supported in some way through the Batavia schools, not necessarily through Chip In. When we started, there were 52. Some attend our schools, but Batavia gets them there. So I'm going to read this because there's so much. I'm going to read really fast. We already have over 185 people on our email list that have responded, that are interested. We set up a website, a Facebook page. We have repaired 3 cars. We got one family their car sticker registration so they could drive. We've gotten family's life possessions out of storage. We have helped 20 to 30 families with warm clothes, household items, diapers, things that they absolutely needed. We provided school supplies, and filled backpacks for students. Snacks are provided at every school. HC Storm supplied food for spring break for 40 to 50 families. We have supplied household items, kitchen, bedding for 3 families that actually moved out of homelessness into an apartment. We have paid for an online course for seniors so they could graduate, collected 5 laptops for students, and we still have 2 that we're waiting to be handed out. We're very, very careful who we give them to. We repaired 2 computers and bought 2 brand new computers and a laser printer for the Batavia Apartments. We've collected books for all the schools. We have done specific family needs, such as gift cards for clothing, food, gas. We are trying to organize a junior bulldog football camp for the Batavia Apartments. We are helping find tutors at J.B. Nelson, Hooverwood, and the Batavia Apartments. And the high school has provided at least 5 students already to the Batavia Apartments, and they have made a huge difference. And there's a short letter from a student at the Batavia Apartments I'm going to read. Homework Club is fun because you can do your homework quicker than at home. The tutors are fun to have, and they help you with your homework. They teach you new things that you never knew before. I especially like the high school students. When I take my homework to school, I get a good grade on it. I also do good on tests. Perfectly honest. We found a U of I student to help us repair and clean up used computers. We raised about $4,500 through 2 fundraisers. We raised about $7,000 through publicity and word of mouth. We are looking for bikes for some students through the police have confiscated bicycles and a local bike seller. We have collected clothing toys for a family who had a fire, and we already have 4 beds that we found for them that we're having delivered to the grandmother's home. We are helping to look for leads on jobs for parents. We are working with Batavia Apartments and Whittick Martial Arts. They have a room at the apartments for karate. We found them full-length mirrors, and we paid for the mats in the classroom. There's some Batavia Apartment
Single moms are taking the GED, and if they pass all their tests, we're going to help pay for the tests. We have started a prom dress collection with Zanos. They actually have over 60 unbelievably beautiful dresses at Zanos right now. If you are by there, you can walk in and walk. We only have 5 girls so far, but we are extending out to other communities to look for girls in need. Men's Warehouse is providing 3 free Texas. They said only 1, then 2, now we have 3. We are working with Batavia Public Schools and the football team to deliver furniture to 2 families of Batavia apartments, and we are going to deliver those 4 beds. The football team is helping us pay for to start a new business, so moving to business. At the holidays, we work with United Way to get families adopted for gifts with United Way. The holidays, we organize bags of fresh produce for 35 families. We are working closely with the food pantry and the clothes closet. They are being amazingly supportive. And we are working to find extracurricular classes for some Hooverwood students. We got one into a class at Whittick, and he came in, I think, to school the next day, happy and smiling, and he was tired, and he said it was hard, and he made a friend, and that friend was my son. So that was Tri-City Soccer is giving us free classes for 3 students. We're working on baseball. We're working on acting classes with Steel Beam, classes at the Park District, and gymnastics at Excel. And Batavia Apartments is putting together an end of the school year fair that we're helping on. So, we have contacts at each school that work with the schools. We have adopted groups. So I just want to say their names. Amy Moore, Laura Bernabé, Cindy Morgan, and her neighborhood adopted school. Sue Bauer and Kiwanis adopted Hooverwood. Ann Rudd and her neighborhood adopted Storm. Melinda Kintz is working, actually my co-chair on this whole project. All 3 of us do everything together. And she is Sarah's main contact. She's been amazing. Rick Munson and the Rotary Club adopted JB. The Batavia Women's Club have adopted Rotolo. The Main Street Board of Directors have adopted AGS. It's been amazing. So I wanted to thank everybody very much. So, okay, what am I? I'm changing my hat. I'm on the Batavia Bicycle Commission. And we have a bike rodeo this Saturday at the high school, and it's to teach bike safety to children. It's mostly for elementary, but also middle school. There's going to be prizes, and it's actually fun, and it's a really excellent way to teach your kids how to be safe on a bicycle. And May 7th, it's Wednesday, it's Bike to School Day, and it's sponsored by the school district and the Bike Commission and a bunch of other people. And we're going to have the police and the fire department at the schools. We asked city council people to come. We're handing out stickers. We're telling kids to decorate their bikes. It would be great if you wanted to go to a local school, maybe where your child is. And we're just there to encourage kids and say great job and get more kids walking and biking to school.
Thank you, Joanne.
Thank you, Joanne.
The next one, the RMS Honors Orchestra at Carnegie Hall. Last month, we had a celebrating success, and Rita Fairborn was here to show off some of her students. She had one more to show off who didn't make the list because they misspelled her name. So I will go ahead and pass that name along to you guys because she wanted to make sure that Emma received the same accolades that the other students did that showed up. So that's what that one was for, a success, celebrating success.
Emma who?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Pevnika.
Okay, Emma Pavnika. Yay!
Yep, way to go.
Kind of sticky with her name. Item number 5 is our consent agenda. The consent agenda is a method of streamlining our meetings by taking one vote on a number of routine personnel and business items. Each of the items is detailed in the agenda and has been appropriately posted in the board packet. Mr. Pierce, will you read the consent agenda?
Absolutely. As Superintendent Hitchens said at the beginning of the meeting, the 5.4, those are amended minutes from the April 8th special meeting, and then we are removing 5.17 and 5.19. 5.1 through 5.6 are our policy, finance, regular, special, and closed session meeting minutes. The personnel report, I believe, is the shortest since I've been working in Batavia. There's only 2 things. One item that I wanted to note on that there's one leave, but then additionally, Melissa Kazkowski is resigning, and we are very happy for her because she's going to be becoming the superintendent in Roselle. So congratulations to Melissa as she moves on in her career. We have 5.8, which is our routine financial items. That includes our invoice journal summary as well as the bills. Our treasurer's report has 4 different components to it: the revenue operating statement, expenditures, the fund balance, and our investments. We have one donation report this month. BP made a donation to J.B. Nelson and Rhonda Gamlin for the purchase of some PE equipment, I believe. We had 3 FOIA requests. We have the destruction of closed session minutes and recordings from October of 2012. I know this is a sad one for Jeff Modaf, but we have the destruction of surplus properties. We have 8 mats, I believe, or rugs from Grace McWayne School that we're saying goodbye to. Disposal. We have 2 trips that are being approved, an overnight band trip to New Orleans, as well as the International Club is going to be traveling to Chicago. Lindsay Janata outlined the bus lease renewal this morning at our Finance Committee, and we need that. That's listed as a part of our consent agenda. We also have the intergovernmental agreement with Batavia, which is about the enforcement of parking and traffic. Additionally, there's another intergovernmental agreement with Batavia for the installation of sidewalks. Lastly, 5.21 is our annual support contract with Power Schools.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
On the overnight trip to New Orleans, it didn't seem like there was a lot of playing of music. You said based on availability, do they not guarantee to play?
No, they'll play. I think they just don't know when. They don't know the exact schedule right now. Is the way
Okay.
that I read that.
Okay. 'Cause I-
Yeah, no, they'll play.
Because it seemed like if they didn't play, it didn't seem like a big purpose to go. Isn't their trip supposed to be based on the?
Yes, the way that.
Sure.
Yes,
Okay.
that was the final schedule. It's a little far out for the final.
Okay, I just
Schedule,
thought based on
yes.
availability, like they get there and they might not be able to play. Just want to make sure that they're actually going to go down there and play.
Yes, they will. They will play. They will play.
Quick procedural question. Why do we already have a motion and votes, do you know?
I was looking at that same thing.
Okay. Okay, we'll see
Well,
if
you know.
we'll see if we can fix it. Either that or guys up profit.
Great, that's gonna go over
Yeah, I was looking at that.
New system, things happen. Are there any other items on the consent agenda for removal or for clarification? Mr. Howard?
Just a clarification, on the lease agreement with Santander leasing about the buses, I see that Chris, you had indicated it is a 3-year lease, and on the very end of it, that they actually lease their buses for 6 years because of the life expectancy of the bus. I just wanted to make sure we are not on the hook for those other 3 years.
Not at all. No, we return them after 3 years.
Okay.
Oh, maybe that's what it is. Learning something new always learning, always wrong. Any other questions, clarifications about the consent agenda? Okay, then do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Is that moved by Blakely, second by Stoops? Kathy, could you call the roll?
Let's see if this will work in some. Blakely.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Stoops.
Yes.
Impastato. Somehow she didn't get that.
She's not even on there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, all right, I'll add you. And then, Kathy?
Yes.
What is number 6, just
discussion and
We don't have anything in.
Oh,
six
so we're
today.
just
Yep.
skipping. Okay.
Yeah.
That will always be. Okay,
It's just always there.
moving on. We have 2 items under action tonight.
Three.
Oh, the 21st and 29th. All right, Dr. Hitchin,
We have no discussion.
would you like to give us
There's
our-
no items for discussion, which is a time when we can discuss an item without taking a vote on it. We did have some last month. That's just a standing agenda item, that's why you see it there, but there's no items this month. So the next part of the agenda is called action, and you will be taking action if you You know,
You'll be
if you move it,
requested? You'll
yes.
be
If somebody makes a motion
recommended?
to act, there would be action at the end of those three. So the first one would be the policy committee report. We had a policy committee meeting last Wednesday, just like we do every month. And at the last meeting, 5 board members were there. Policy meetings are open to the public. The minutes are made available once we approve them the following month. And the agendas are posted online. And no decisions are made at our committee meetings. They're always made here at the public meetings in the evening. And so the policy committee talked about several things, and the 4 that you see in the board book tonight are the 4 that the policy committee thought that you were ready to vote on, and those would be revisions. The first 3 are revisions to Section 5, which is personnel, and they're all related to changes in legislation, and that those are recommended changes according to our policies. We subscribe to policy, and these are the recommended changes that were brought by them, by our policy service, so that we're compliant with the law. So we're asking that if you have any questions, you could ask now, and then we would ask that you adopt those changes so we can be compliant. And then also same would be Section 7, that's our student section, and there's a recommendation there to update our attendance and truancy policy so that we be compliant with the law. So are there any questions about the policy committee report? Since 5 of you were there.
Yeah.
Right. I was gonna say, for the 2 of you who are not, or if there's further discussion?
I have no questions.
Okay, then I would entertain a motion to approve the changes to policy as indicated by Dr. Hitchens' report.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Gaspar, second by Impastato. Kathy, could you call the roll?
Blakely.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Sato.
Yes.
Walk.
Yes.
Stoops.
Yes.
Dremel.
Yes. Moving on, Dr. Mon, the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Aurora.
Thank you. Around the November, December timeframe, we were approached by the City of Aurora about discussions to enter into an intergovernmental agreement to assist in getting the expansion of the Chicago Premium Outlet Mall underway. We have been working with them on the finer details of the agreement, and tonight we bring it to you for approval. The financial summary of this intergovernmental agreement would allow Simon Chelsea, the owners of the Chicago Premium Outlet Mall, to expand the mall by almost 2/3. It's currently around 450,000 square feet. I think I may have my numbers slightly off.
435.
435. Don't want to overestimate there. But they are looking to do a 290,000 square foot addition. However, the financing of the project required the use of TIF 8 funds from the City of Aurora, along with some reworking of some additional property that is in what was TIF 2. It's currently a parking lot. But they are asking for the school district, once the expansion is complete and the new property comes on and we start receiving taxes from that, they're asking for us to rebate a portion of those taxes back to the City of Aurora, which would then flow through to Simon Chelsea. This agreement is vital to Simon Chelsea to be able to get the project off the ground. And we believe that without this additional type of financing that the expansion might not take place. So they are asking us to rebate taxes that we don't yet have, and we are only liable to send back up to $3.2 million of taxes that would be coming new down the road anyways. We would be keeping 10% of any new increment that comes into the property tax rolls, and that is exclusive of bond and interest taxes. Those taxes would be outside before that 10% is retained here at the district. With us tonight from the nonprofit economic development arm of the City of Aurora, Sees the Future, is David Holzberg. He can walk through the outlet mall project and where and when and how the project is expected to be. We can project a site picture if you have any questions about that. But we believe that this project, when we are done rebating taxes back to the City of Aurora, will bring in over $900,000 of new tax revenue each year into the district. Even while we're rebating taxes, we believe we'll be retaining about $150,000 of new property taxes as well. So We think this is a very financially sound proposal for the board to entertain to help spur even more additional development down in that I-88 corridor. So I don't know if you want David to do a brief presentation or if you have specific questions for either of us over this agreement, but again, we would ask for your approval.
I think a little bit of a presentation would be in order,
Yeah.
since not everyone was here at finance.
Well, I wasn't.
If I could ask,
The
put up
site-
an aerial,
Yeah, the site that we had
yes,
this afternoon.
that'll benefit the audience as well. Great. If I can stand for a moment, then I'll take a seat, and I apologize for my back to the audience. This is the outlet malls as we know them today. This area, going all the way to the west, was part of TIF 2. TIF 2, as you know, expired, and right now the new EAV is on your tax rolls and you're enjoying the benefit of that. There's a portion of this property, of what was TIF 2, we're calling Parcel A. It's where the parking lot is on the western side of the Chicago Premium Outlet. That area, plus this area, which was known as the Sealmaster property, we call it the Emerson property, we call Phase 2. The development plan that you're now going to be seeing is taking Parcel A and putting roughly 47% of the new Phase 2 development on that portion of the property. And the balance of the development, 53% of it, is going into the new TIF District 8, of which we have an agreement with you which says we're going to take the top 10% of any increment generated from that and rebate it immediately back, calling it surplus. If you would, you can take a look at what we'll call Parcel A and imagine it almost as a mini TIF. You're taking the 10% like you would in the regular TIF that we've arranged in the past, but rather than creating a TIF that has a 23-year life, we're creating a separate time period. We believe it'll amount to about 6 years for you, in which you're going to generate, increment is going to be generated, and it's going to be given back to the school district. So you'll take the 10% and the 90% will go to the city. We'll rebate it back to the developer in order to effectuate this development plan. In return, the city gets a win in terms of a development, and the school district gets a big win. I look at it as an insurance policy for the school district. One, we're taking what is your major taxpayer, and we're finding a way to protect the increment that's getting generated there. What this intergovernmental agreement does, it locks in the base EAV for not only Phase 1, but also Parcel A. So that doesn't mean that they can't challenge their taxes. What it means is if it's below this threshold that's set, they can never challenge their taxes. If the EAV increases, they can challenge it, but like you and I, as our governmental bodies, we have the right to go ahead and challenge their appeal. What's important to note is when the assessor looks at this entire development, they look at it as an entire development. They don't look at it as 3 separate parcels. So what they'll do is, right now it's the equalized assessed value is $93 per square foot for the existing mall. So if one affects one, then it affects all. So that's something very important for us to know. The second thing is we know that in the next 21 years, we're likely to have another recession. Let's hope not, but in all likelihood, that would happen. If it was a dramatic recession, what we have the confidence in knowing is that this baseline EAV is now protected, and you'll enjoy that increment in the future. The third thing, what we've done here is we're encouraging economic development, not only with a reinvestment in this property, but also for the region. As we synergistically improve this property, we're adding value to this region of the Batavia School District, which will then likely help go ahead and produce more increment that you would benefit from. So the new value of Parcel A will come into you immediately once the rebate period is done. We think that's 6 years, so you'll start enjoying that increment in about 6 years. And then when the TIF expires in 2035, you'll start enjoying all the new increment that's generated from that property as well. So that's more good news down the road for you. Let's talk about how we originally got to where we are. In the 2002 TIF agreement, The project cost then was $95.6 million, and we created 435,000 square feet. That project cost reimbursement from what we call extraordinary cost, or the but-for test, was $23.1 million. And the source of reimbursement for that was the property taxes from the TIF and the state shared sales tax that the city provided. The incremental property tax generated annually between levy years 2002 and 2013 was $31.5 million. This next aspect of the project is going to cost $110 million. The project size is 293,000 square feet, and the cost of the project that we're going to reimburse is between $21.5 and $24 million. The difference there is we're talking about one additional anchor tenant. If they're able to be secured in the next time period, then we'll provide that additional $3 million, or actually $2.5 million. The source of the reimbursement here is really coming from the TIF property taxes and what we call ordinary property taxes, which we're doing in form of a rebate agreement. You can do it by state law. You can do an abatement for up to 10 years, not to exceed $4 million, or you can do it as a rebate agreement, and we're choosing the rebate agreement, providing a shorter time window for the dollars to get generated here. In total, there'd be a $4 million rebate between the city and the Batavia School District. I think that outlays generally what the project looks like. I can tell you this is the first time that Simon Chelsea has ever built this large of an addition to any project that they have in their portfolio. Simon Chelsea is a publicly traded corporation. I don't know if any of you own stock in it. I know that I don't, but I wish I did. But the mall is doing well. Part of this, it's no secret, Rosemont opened up, becoming the 5th outlet mall in the state of Illinois. They're in our backyard. One thing that we realize, in order to protect an asset, you have to create a niche. And you have to create something that's a little bit different than something somebody else can be. Well, Rosemont can't be as big as what we can be. So the goal is to really blow this out, create roughly 250 stores here, and really be the mega outlet mall for the entire state, the entire Midwest, and have that competitive advantage retained for the Batavia School District and the city of Aurora. I'd be happy to answer questions.
Just for clarity's sake, when you're saying the rebate that we're entering into, we're choosing that because it's a 6-year time period at a total of $4 million, $3.2 million of that coming from the school district and the remainder coming from the city of Aurora?
That's correct. We looked at that based off what the increment is that's being generated during that time period, that the payback period would be about 6 years. And the important aspect why we're looking at coming, so to speak, over to parcel A is phase 2 just doesn't generate the amount of increment needed to pick up the difference in the project, rather than going back and trying to add that property into the TIF district through a reconstitution, or what we call an addition there too. It was simpler to look at a rebate and say, we have a friendly partner, you represent 60% of the tax bill, the city represents 20%. The rest of the players out there are small potatoes, so to speak. And what makes the most important is saying, how do we protect each other's interests? I think the final component of this, in a separate agreement that will be forthcoming, but the city is committed to, is that we will be providing that we will not issue any multifamily utility connections to the unincorporated area that Aurora would enjoy being able to provide to. That means it will not, so to speak, encourage more multifamily housing and thus impact your school district as well. So I would say that's the hidden gem that Chris worked out with us and leverages pretty hard to say, can you get those assurances? And the mayor said, we're a partner in this, you're a partner in this, let's continue in that vein.
Well, I would also say another hidden gem here that is in on page 6, section under real estate tax obligation of the owner and the developer. Point B, the owner and the developer and their respective successor owners agree to pay or cause to pay in general the real estate taxes. So I think it's important to note that this covers if Simon Chelsea was ever bought out by a competitor. It's transferable. It has to be taken upon by any other entity, so it's, yeah, exactly, thank you.
And that will be recorded and it will carry with the title.
So if you bought them all, you would
I
have
have some piggyback savings. So.
How does this affect how we budgeted based on the expiring TIF?
It does not affect the expiring TIF at all, because as you can see, the parcel that is now set for expansion is parking lot, which carries very little value. That TIF has expired, it has come onto the property rolls, and now they are proposing to continue with brand new development into a relatively unvaluable lot of asphalt. So.
Okay. I just don't want to, I'm sure we haven't.
I think long-term though, again, from my experience in doing this over the last 30 years, is what you will see is additional reinvestment in this corridor. And the likelihood of seeing much more coming in the heels of this is what my job is all about. And you can consider me your economic development guru for this corridor, this portion of Batavia, to make it very successful and profitable for you.
Is there going to be any further investment in the existing mall from any of the projected monies they're looking to do for the expansion?
Yes, in the redevelopment agreement, there's a requirement that $5 million gets reinvestment to bring the existing outlet mall up to this new standard that will exist. There's some amenities that will be there. There's
Parking?
a boat pond. In
Is
fact,
there going to be a
there's
new lane on 88 so you don't block me up when I get home from work?
There will be 1,900 new parking spaces developed as part of this project. There will be some lining of the ring, what we call the ring road, going around, prohibiting parking on the ring road. So the parking amount is going to increase significantly. As everybody in this room knows, the best way to enter the premium outlet is from Bilter. So don't go on Farnsworth, go on Bilter, and you'll get a spot real easy.
The lady's like, don't swear.
Everyone comes up in a school.
I did see this in the whole thing, but in reference to the entire exhibit, I guess just for everybody's reference point, how the school district boundaries actually run. I know 88's an easy thing to draw in your mind, but how far to the east, how far to the west does this, do we incorporate into this district?
I'm trying to see how quickly I can pull up our boundary map, but we easily go all the way, through the Seal Master plant. Like TIF 8, which is the Seal Master property there, which is the white building, all of that, that's
Yes.
entirely within our school district.
And the reason I say that is part of your presentation was the agreement that you came about with the city, and that the other areas, there are more areas around there probably to be developed, and as this takes off, I mean, it's a magnet. So there will be other opportunities for economic development in that area. And if we could, just to get an idea,
of what could be
reference
developed.
what the size of this area is. I mean, that's the big one, and that's that's the gold star down there, but yet.
Well, immediately north of there, there's 50 acres. There's 10 single-family homes that represent 50 acres. The city of Aurora has already purchased property at Farnsworth and Bilton. We believe that we're best suited to go ahead and pick up some of that property, look at redevelopment opportunity, and we're doing it throughout the city. We're being very active in our approach in redevelopment opportunities and land acquisitions, and I think that only benefits the school board.
And I just quickly pulled up a boundary map, but I think where the picture cuts off right now is approximately where our eastern boundary is right there.
That's DuPage County immediately, that's the line.
Yeah, that's the line for the county, there.
Yes.
So again, to summarize the financial aspects of this, we really believe the most important aspect of this agreement is the locked-in minimum EAV for our largest taxpayer, and the largest taxpayer in King County. They have agreed that the EAV of the outlet mall will not go below the level it is right now, which is a concern that we talked about as the TIF was expiring and we were levying for that. Also, this agreement includes a minimum EAV for the new parcels that also includes a 2.75% inflationary factor every year. So it will set the EAV at the amount based on current square footage amount per square foot, but then that does inflate, which would mean, I think conformity is the term I've heard used, that the rest of the outlet mall would probably be held to the same type of EAV standard. So the security of that tax base is one of the pivotal aspects of this agreement. In addition, that we will still see the 10% increment for both. So it is bringing new revenues in the short term, as well as significant revenues in the long term. The one procedural aspect is when we prepared the resolution and the motion, we thought that the city was also approving this intergovernmental agreement this evening. They approved the zoning aspect and the redevelopment agreement. They will be bringing the IGA back at a subsequent meeting, I believe probably within the next few weeks. So we would amend any motion to say that you approve this intergovernmental agreement subject to the city also approving the intergovernmental agreement within 30 days.
What if the city of Aurora amends or makes any other changes to the IGA?
I believe it would have to come back to you to accept such amendments.
I was waiting to see if anyone had any questions. No one else has questions? Then I would entertain a motion to approve the IGA as amended.
So long as the motion that you're making states that it's subject to subsequent approval of the intergovernmental agreement by the city of Aurora within the next 30 days.
Then I would entertain a motion, yes, to approve the IGA with the amendment that Dr. Mann.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Locke, second by Stoops. Kathy, would you call the roll?
I'm sorry, first.
Locke,
I'm sorry,
Locke,
And
Stoops.
Stoops. Locke, Stoops. Sounds like an insult, doesn't it?
Okay, Paisley,
Yes.
Gaspar,
Yes.
Hodge,
Yes.
Moscato,
Yes.
Locke,
Yes.
Stoops,
Yes.
Dremel.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Yes.
time.
Thank
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elton.
Okay. Kathy, are you okay for us to move on?
Yeah, I'm sorry, yes. thank
Oh, no,
you.
that's okay. I just didn't want to. All right, Dr. Hitchens, you are going to introduce us to the 21st Century Learning Plan.
Yes, this is the second presentation of the 21st Century Learning Plan. I did want to start with a little disclaimer. It's not the same presentation that you saw last month because last month Tony presented quite a few details and there was a great question and answer and discussion that followed. And what we asked him to do based on FAQs and based on what the board is saying that they would like to hear more about, he really tailored his presentation to that. So as far as specific details, you can look at his presentation from last month. I know most of the people in the audience are knowledgeable, have read about it, and as a matter of fact, I would say 75% are teachers or other staff, probably teachers, and probably 90% of the audience is staff right now. And so we asked him to allow time for question and answers and allow time to hear from people who are participating in the pilots or have opinions about this that are employees in the district. And so I'll turn it over to Ken.
Yeah, so the purpose of the presentation here is to really be a dynamic discussion, so please, anytime you have a question, don't hesitate to ask. I'm not trying to make this my presentation, I want to make this a discussion with the board. So, as Dr. Mon was so kind to point out, the path to our 21st Century Learning Plan starts on a dirt road. It wasn't what I was thinking when I chose this picture. I was thinking that we have a destination in mind. We don't necessarily know the path to get there, and this is going to be a winding road. And I want to be transparent in that we are going to have to make corrections as we travel on this path. And I guess in some ways it's apropos that we start on a dirt road because this is the very beginning of our journey. This is hard to read, but this is a response from a student, and I'm assuming it's probably at the end of a course, but if you can't read it, I'll read it for you. It says, "If I had 1 hour to live, I'd spend it in this class because it feels like an eternity." And think about that. I don't think that class was particularly engaging. And that's exactly what we're asking teachers to do, is to make learning engaging, because the standards have changed, the expectations have changed, and the accountability has changed, so that all students must learn, that we are prepared for college and careers when they leave our schools, and in the past that was not the case. And I don't bring this up because I think technology is the answer to our problems, and far from it. Teachers are the answers to our problems, but technology will help them get them there. It is just a tool. We want to make sure our teachers are armed with all the tools they need to engage students in ways that meet their learning styles and their interests, and help them understand what students know, what they don't know, and what they need to focus on next. And this is a picture of a classroom. This doesn't happen to be one of our classrooms, because our classrooms would have actual whiteboards, not chalkboards. Actually, that's not true. About 50% of our classrooms are equipped with smart technologies like interactive whiteboards, document cameras, projectors. All classrooms have projectors, those sorts of things. But the classroom isn't a whole lot different than it was in this picture. And yet, society as a whole is different. We know that students at home are using technology, particularly in Batavia. So to recap my previous presentation, because I think it's an important, some important statistics are that 96% of all of our students have access to high-speed internet in their own homes. And 99% of all of our students have access to a device of some kind. And 57% of our students have a smartphone. Now that, of course, is the students that have registered for next year. And of course, not everybody's registered, but that is from a survey that we took, is students registered. But what's interesting is our classrooms haven't much changed. In fact, from a study done by the U.S. Department of Commerce about 10 years ago, they looked at a number of different industries. In fact, they looked at 55 industries. And what they realized is that education ranked dead last when it came to technology integration and innovation. And it was right behind coal mining. As far as where we were. And so not much has changed, unfortunately, when it comes to integrating technology into our classrooms. And we're going to change that. So
They got rid of the bird.
So the purpose of this plan is to really rethink where we're headed here. And this history doesn't start with the plan that we presented you last month, far from it. It starts with a committee of teachers and parents and students and administrators, our instructional technology committee back in 2012, and they laid out a vision and a plan for the future and a framework. And we've tested some of those components with pilots at Alice Gustafson School, with iPads over the last 2 years, and with Chromebooks in our middle school over the last year in the 6th grade. And so it's important we're looking at these things, it's important to realize that the change is really coming to education, finally, after all these years. And largely in due part because of devices like the iPad and the Chromebook, where these devices are affordable, finally, for schools, and they're really easy to integrate into the classroom. I shouldn't say that. It's not necessarily really easy to do, but they're available. The technology lends itself to be integrated into the classroom. So, let's see here. Change, of course, as we say, is in the air. And if this is a picture of that change, and I hear John taking a deep breath. And if this picture doesn't make you squirm a little bit, I don't think you necessarily understand what kind of change we're facing. Now, most educators would tell you that this is probably not a model of good instruction, especially with technology. This is not, in some ways, this is exactly what we're thinking of. And in other ways, this is exactly what we're not thinking of. We're not trying to put a computer in front of the faces of each of our children so that they can use this computer instead of interacting with a human being, and especially a teacher and their fellow students. We know that learning is a social practice. The intention is not to replace textbooks entirely with computers, and it certainly, absolutely isn't to replace good instruction and good teachers with computers. But it is about access, because we know that despite students having access to technology at home, they don't have much access to technology in school. So we would like our students to be able to have these devices so that they can access it in the classroom without planning it out. One of some of the statistics from Batavia High School in just this school year alone is that 53 teacher requests went unfilled because our labs were unavailable for them with the time schedules that we have. We have something on the order of 15 computer labs in Batavia High School, but they are heavily scheduled. And every class has to wait days, if not weeks, to get into a computer lab to use technology to help them learn. And that, in these days, is just simply not acceptable anymore. So everything is going to change. This is a picture of change, but yet at the same time, nothing will change at all. Because in many ways, this technology, again, is just a tool. It's a portal to information and connection to other people, just like every other resource in our classroom is. I don't know when this picture was taken. I assume it's probably somewhere around the 1950s. But again, many ways our instruction isn't going to change much, but we'll be able to use other strategies that will help engage our students in ways that we know helps them learn, in ways that we know meet their needs as an individual, their personalized interests, and help teachers really understand what it is that they know, what they don't know, how to enrich their education, or how to help them meet the standards that we set. So, how are we going to do that? And fundamentally, it's through this model, which is called SAMR. And SAMR stands for each of these levels that you see here: substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. And initially, as we start this process, it'll be supported primarily with our instructional coaches and our instructional technologists, working with teachers in the classroom over a period of years to help them integrate the technology into their instruction, because this doesn't happen overnight. And we're going to start at the bottom of this model here with substitution, where a digital tool can act as a substitute for a traditional tool, and hopefully, in short order, maybe augmenting what some of those traditional tools might do. There's a number of examples, and I'll give you an opportunity here in a few moments to ask some of our teachers, but they can give you some examples of what this SAMR model can do to help actually redefine what learning looks like in our schools. So, questions so far?
Yeah, let's pause to see if there's got to be questions.
There's got to be questions, yes.
And I think to put somebody on the spot, and I'm not going to pick which one, but if nobody chooses, then Angie. Can you give a SAMR example of how you might look at one of your traditional lessons and apply this?
Sure, I guess. If you take, for instance, your typical, worksheet that you might do in a classroom, I guess that's, something that we're all familiar with, and you bring it into the substitution level, that might be simply just making a digital copy of that, making it accessible even from a web page so that every student has it without copying the paper, but they're still able to do that, that activity online and then turn it into their teacher digitally that way. If you augment that, that's a really, just a functional improvement. For example, students in a classroom might need to go get a dictionary to check their spelling, and here spell check might be available. They might be able to add things to their document that they wouldn't be able to otherwise. So they're adding some functional improvement to their document, and really even being able to access that document from wherever is a functional improvement by accessing that link maybe from home, from school, whatever, so they don't lose it. And modification really moves us into that transformation phase, which is where we want to see teachers working toward, and it really provides the most benefit for students because now they're able to really redesign that task. For example, instead of that worksheet, they can now use say a Google Doc that they can collaborate with students across the district and be working on a similar project together, all in real time, providing feedback and comments and doing things that they weren't able to do before. And then redefinition were things that were previously inconceivable,
a lot of times that means, that adds that extending learning beyond the classroom, where you can maybe now post those things that you've learned and collaborate with people with similar interests through the web or by advertising those thoughts and ideas and forming a relationship with other people who can benefit your own learning. As far as the redefinition phase goes, it's something that we always work toward and we want to give students those experiences, but it's not where we want to live all the time. It's a lot of times I say like visiting grandma's house, it's a great place to visit, but you don't want to move there. And so we work there. No offense to anyone. No, but it's a great place to work toward, but we don't want to see teachers living there all the time, because then it becomes mundane and it doesn't become something that's beneficial all the time. This process is a ladder that you climb, but you also can move within it at all steps, at all parts of your learning process. So it's a tool to help teachers kind of examine where they are as far as their technology integration goes, and it's a really nice tool for kind of just self-assessing your instruction in the classroom and seeing what benefits that you could provide to students that they might not have had otherwise.
Questions from the board?
Where do we see this helping them the most? In their writing, in their math? What types of classes?
Everything. And I think when you're talking about writing, when they're writing, if they're writing in a small group, and you've decided that you want them to discuss a question, we could join the group, and the four of us could sit and type and talk to one another. This happened in one of my teammates' classes. The student was absent. She knew what time that they were going to all meet, and she talked to them from home and actually got to be part of the lesson that she would have missed had she not. She didn't miss anything, and she got to join in with the group and got to be part of that.
There's immediate feedback. You can differentiate without students even realizing that you've done that. So it helps students with special needs. It helps you, expand and give students, the higher level that they need, or if they need something at a lower level, and that can be all done without, without that impeding anything, and they can do that. Like you said, writing can be helped in various ways. Text-to-speech options can be added. The apps that help with that are available to you right away. It helps with encoding. You can do kinds of interventions for encoding, decoding. It's all available right at your fingertips.
It's the coolest thing when they're sitting and talking to each other, and because they've shared with you, you're watching them talk to each other, and you can throw a comment in, and I can watch 3 different groups at the same time, and they're talking to each other, and I can talk about what a comment that they've had. Christina said something about that. I can send with small groups, I can send in the modification point lessons that are the same lesson. They get the same piece out of it, but I've modified it, and like she said, no one knows that I've modified it or not except that student that got it. So I can modify throughout with small groups or individually, and I can get what I need from that student at the level that they need. And that can be as low or as high. Then I've got my express group that is doing something that because they have such a high grade in that class, they're doing things that are much more independent. And some of them find out that they need more of a structure, and then I didn't do what I needed to do this time, so I'm going to make sure that I get the grade I need you to get back on Express so I can show you what I can do. So that's a life lesson in itself. So I think you're learning, they're learning some life lessons within that on how to use the kind of technology that they're going to use in college. And
When you said that they were talking back and forth, are they talking on the computer?
And the comments
So
to each other.
isn't that going to interfere with one-on-one? I work better talking to people face-to-face than I do on this.
And I think one of the things, you don't do this the whole time.
No.
Sometimes it's small groups where I have a student that I just had a meeting with a parent for an IEP, and this particular person has difficulty. Not everybody does better one-on-one. so we're going to try to meet the needs of everybody, doing a lot of different things at different times within the classroom. This particular student, their biggest difficulty would be sitting down and talking one-on-one to anybody. Thrives in a situation where they can group with one or two other people within the class and say all the things that that particular student has the capability of saying but can't do it. So in that respect, that student, that's need is met. If I, not as a teacher, and I think one of the things you said is this isn't all about Chromebooks, it's about using those Chromebooks and having us be able to know who you are. So, you know, I try to get you to do this a little bit, but then I also can do one-on-one with you also and be able to talk to you. So I think that's part of the big thing is we're teachers and we know our kids and that's what that's what we're good at. And that would give you that experience of being able to collaborate in more than one way.
Well, before we go much,
Okay.
I'm sorry, before we go much further, there's a couple of things that the primary purpose of tonight is so that you have an opportunity to ask teachers questions. But before we go much further, there's a couple of teachers that actually have, well, at least one, that have prepared statements that they wanted to at least introduce to the board. So I wanted to start with Lark Kernock, who teaches 5th grade over at Gustafson School. So Lark, would you mind having a seat at the table up there? And we'll hear from Lark, and then I'll introduce the other teachers, and you'll have opportunities to ask them.
And I'd like to make a full disclaimer, because Lark is my daughter's teacher, and she pretty much walks on water as far as I'm concerned. So I don't think she's right.
Well, thank you. Thanks for letting me share my experience with you. Honestly, having these devices in my classroom has changed my teaching style in a really positive way. Teaching used to be so different, you know, where the teacher just was the whole source of information. So you were it, and the kids would just listen to you and you know, lecture and sometimes listen to you. But now we encourage them to, you know, take a real active role in their learning. And what you said, I think my classroom is now more of a collaborative learning class than it was ever before, because we try to get them to problem solve together and critically think, and in my class, we have the one-on-one iPads. So the students are able to get, as Tony said, instant access at home. But in the classroom, we're not. So this allows us to seize that teachable moment. You know, when there's a teachable moment in the class, in the past, we had somebody would say, ask a question or have something, and we would have my computer. So we'd say, okay, go ahead and look that up over on my computer. But then we could get into the computer lab, but that took, you know, sometimes quite a while. It was hard to get in there, and the teachable moment was gone. So I'll give you an example. I was teaching out of our Journeys reading book, and it was about Ridley sea turtles. And we were talking about what do we know about this, what do we want to know, and I had just gotten the iPads, and you know, I didn't grow up with all this. I didn't even have a smartphone 2 years ago when you get these iPads. I didn't have any of this. So when they asked me to do this, I said, okay. And all summer long, I just got to give you this background. All summer long, I was really worried about it, and I was like asking everybody, I'm online, trying to find other teachers that have one-to-one. If someone had an iPad, I'd say, what do you do with it? I thought it was all about the apps. I had to find all these apps, and I had to, you know, get that all together. But I realized that if I was going to be the good teacher that I thought I was, I had to get in this digital world, because the kids, that's their world, a digital world. They're digital natives, and that's the way it is. So I thought I have to get in this world too. So I was all worried about it, and I started realizing that it's not about the apps. It's the fact that I don't have to have all the answers. And the kids understand the technology. They teach me something every single day. And my role is completely shifted in the classroom. And I have no longer the sole provider of information. The kids now are able to teach me. They're able to share with me. I share with them. It's very collaborative. And this Ridley sea turtle thing, I'll get back to, we were talking about it, before I knew it, somebody had said, oh, Mrs. Kernock, look, I just found a picture on the iPad, this is the eggs. And then someone else said, oh, I saw an article in Time for Kids, can I look that up? And so this group was looking at that, somebody else was looking at the eggs hatching, and somebody found a video, and the turtles were hatched and running to the ocean, and birds were getting them. And another little girl said, oh, extinction, you know, this is what we're talking about. And it was like, that was my aha moment. I went, oh, it's not about the apps. It's not about the device. I mean, whether it's a Chromebook or an iPad or whatever else it is, that was my aha moment. So anyway, so I think whether it's an iPad or a Chromebook or whatever it is, it's a tool that allows them to access information and resources outside of our classroom walls. And it really, having the devices truly just transformed our whole classroom. And I don't know what I would do without it now. I mean, I really am sold. And we go down to our first grade reading buddies and we create stories and we make iMovies and they're doing all sorts of things and they share them with each other and we connected with the classroom with this mystery caller in a classroom outside of another state, and we tried to figure out what class they were from, and state they were from, and they tried to figure it out. Reluctant writers, oh my goodness, they'd much rather use an organizer on their iPad and type it than they would writing. So anyway, I could go on, but it truly has changed our way of thinking. So, thanks for letting me say that.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Not just you, but anybody else wants to. So you were afraid?
I was, yes.
Okay. So how much training do you feel it took you, or anybody else out there using them, how much time did it take to get to where you felt comfortable using this in your classroom? And anyone can answer that, or all of you can answer that.
Well, for me, Angie was my coach, and she was amazing. If we had any questions, we just called her. But, it was just like the computer. I didn't grow up with any of that. I taught myself all of that, really. Trial and error, whatever. But Tony and Angie, I don't know, they helped you guys a lot. They helped us.
I think it's still a learning process.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think we've had them for a year in my classroom, and I'm still learning. So I think the biggest thing that Lark said that was important is that the kids teach us. So it's it is a big change as a teacher to let go of that control and let them say, hey, can I, I'm showing this person something when you're like, wait, what are you doing? Why are you both using that? And they're sharing information with each other. It gives that quiet student a voice because they can, maybe they wouldn't raise their hand and talk in the classroom environment, but when they're collaborating, they can have their piece. They can say their piece without anybody looking at them, because there are so many kids that I think don't speak because that person has a better answer, or that person is more comfortable raising their hand. I think that gives those quiet kids a voice. So
I think any other kind of curriculum or new curriculum that we have, that we still have to train, we still have to get to know, like being a writer took us time to learn. Any other kind of curriculum we had to go through and learn. I mean, we're still learning certain things about piloting curriculum, so I think it does take time. And
Right.
you have to learn how to do things, so I mean, it's a good valid question, but it takes some time. I mean, new curriculum I had to do during school hours or training or out of my own time. We have our Chrome web browser on our computer, so I had to learn that just like I had to learn the Chromebooks or integrating my lessons or changing my lessons over to whatever I needed to do for Chromebooks. But they've tried to make sure that we had training and things like that.
we got ours in, we were trying to remember, November, I think. It was kind of like, I was a dinosaur, definitely. I was like, really? And so now I want to thank you because it was a marvelous thing, but I really was panicked. And I jumped in the deep end and my water wings were like Angie and Team 6'5". And I was hoping it would keep me afloat enough to figure it out. But I think one of the things that Kim said is the kids help you through it. The other very cool thing is it becomes fun to learn. And I am an old person, so I'm going to retire in a few years, and I'm excited to spend time figuring out what I can do with my kids, so I can get them in that green section where I'm walking around and they're doing, some of the kids who need to be one-on-one and talk to me, they can talk to me and I can work with them, where some of my resource kids are working on something very specific and some of my flyer kids are doing their thing. I mean, I can't wait to get there and to be that excited about that kind of teaching and that kind of learning for my classroom. Like I said, I was kind of like, really? And now I thank you guys for giving me that, because that's pretty cool, as well as all of my school kids, because I think they're loving it, and they really are doing, I'll let other people talk.
Before we get any more Q&A, I'm really sorry. I want to be able to give people proper introductions, but I also want to give any other individuals who want to address the board. I know there's some other teachers here from the high school level and other teachers from anybody who have anything that they want to say specifically to the board before we move forward. Dan Russo? Certainly. Dan Russo is our Learning Center Director at the high school.
I would just say, having been here 20 years ago, when the planning was done for the C wing, which now is the old wing, but in one of the planning meetings, somebody said, you know, in 20 years, it's all, or they said, why put in the network? It's all going to be wireless. And it really has taken 20 years to get to this point, but we can do that now. And you know, 20 years ago, everybody wondered whether teachers could handle computers, and of course they did. We schedule all the computer labs in the high school, and as Tony said, we've had over 60 teachers who could not use a computer lab, or you know, it's delayed a day or a week, and in block schedule, that's really impossible then. You can't use it. So I think the time is really right for this. So it's very exciting to think about that as a possibility.
You know, I think one of the biggest concerns that I had myself and that I would hear sporadically from other members of the board is that the last thing we wanted to do was impose one more thing with all of the changes. We were concerned, would we be able to support teachers with this? So I guess I'm heartened to hear that I have teachers that are willing to refer to themselves as dinosaurs who said, do not take my device away because I have a million new ideas. And I'd love to hear you guys talking about the things you're doing together, the cross collaboration. So I am really heartened to hear that because I think that was our biggest concern. We want this to be something that supports you, supports our students, and is creating opportunities, not new stressors and not new burdens. So are there concerns about that we should be aware of? You know, that you are saying, yes, be aware of this. So we just know going forward, red flags.
We were very concerned about that. This was kind of for Tony, does the BEA have a position on this plan?
Yeah, well, Tina, I appreciate the question you asked, and quite, before the sixth grade pilot started, I was hearing from some members about concern, they were in a panic about training. Once things got started, I have heard nothing but positive things about the program. And as a parent, knowing how my kids are, knowing how I pay those smartphones. But this is first language. I love that digital native. That is the way, these kids, that's their first language. And I think this is a great opportunity for them. And I see this as a way to improve our practice, and I think the support for that is widespread. And I haven't heard any complaints from people that are actually doing it.
That's my other concern is I think we've done a really good job in piloting this in the upper level. It's hard to say upper level elementary, like the older elementary kids and the middle school, and we haven't done anything at the high school.
No, well, there's some high school teachers that want to talk.
Yeah. Talk to us, high school.
They're raising their hands.
I'm Melanie Dial, I'm a Spanish teacher at Batavia High School. And we went with Tony just last week to visit some schools, and it was really, really awesome to see. And I think from the high school perspective, we as staff have been using, like in our PLCs, have been using Google Docs and things like that. And I think that has improved our collaboration and our communication when we're working in a small group. You're not just on the computer the whole time, but we're so much more effective because we're all talking, we're sharing ideas, and instead of having one person have to write down on paper all the ideas, we're all on the computer typing those ideas to each other, and I think that's what's going to happen in our classrooms. I think also as a language teacher, we spend a lot of time in the language lab because we're doing recordings and they're speaking to each other and they're finding all these awesome videos, but we get in there once a week. And the kids ask all the time, can we go to the lab? Can we go to the lab? Can we go to the lab? Can we do this vocabulary activity in the lab? Because they love to learn that way and it's so engaging for them. I also feel like, and I think a lot of teachers would attest to this, that when you're preparing a lesson and you're learning something the first time, you're going to explain it to a student, you spend a lot of time investigating and learning. You find all these pictures that you're going to share, and you learn so much more yourself. And I think having the Chromebooks is a tool for the kids to do that. And then that student is the one who's digging for the information, and they're finding the pictures, and they're learning in that process, because they say that when you really show mastery of something is when you produce it and you teach it. And each kid having a Chromebook, I think, is them being able to do that and them being able to learn themselves. I think at the high school, some of the things that we do here, teachers are concerned, and I think the concern is mostly we don't want to get it on the first day and have no idea what to do. So if we could have some professional development, and not even, we were talking about this, not even necessarily with the Chromebook, but just with knowing how to use Google Chrome, which we kind of already do. I think teachers at the high school understanding that it's not about the Chromebook, it's about using the applications in Google that you've already been using, and hey, this is a great way to take that worksheet and do a bell ringing on your class electronically. This is a great way to find feedback, and teachers can use the summer to work on that. I think those fears will be alleviated. It's usually when we come back the first day and they're like, okay, these are 15 things now you have to do plus the lessons. And especially maybe teachers who aren't comfortable with technology. I think some of the newer teachers were a little more comfortable because we use it and things like that. I think that would help. I was kind of offensive.
Compared to the
My name is Alison Jordan. I am a math teacher at the high school, and I went on the site visit as well. I think that something that I'm most excited for is a lot of the application and extension things that you can do online with math. My division coordinator has done a really nice job of, during meetings, showing us new applications for math. And it's really interesting, and you see these really cool things, but is it really worth your time to take your students all the way down to the lab and get them all set up on it, and then spend 10 minutes doing it and come back to class, and then, oh wait, what were we just doing? We just got back to class and we wasted all this time if they're using the lab open, as opposed to just popping open our Chromebooks and having it something that we're able to do all the time. It's a lot more tangible, and it's something that we're a lot more likely to do. Something that was really interesting in our site visit is at one of the schools, a bunch of teachers were sitting around and telling us different things that they did on the Chromebook. And they had a lot of really great different ideas, and they'd listen to each other and be like, oh, I should do that. That sounds really good. And a lot of those things our teachers already do. And I've had many conversations since that visit with my coworkers, and I tell them, hey, you do this all the time. You do this, you do this. And like, yeah, we do. We've learned about this. We've seen this. We've talked about that. Now it's at our fingertips, and we can do it more often. We can do it a lot more time efficient, and we can do it while collaborating. So I think that just reminding teachers of these are things that we can already do, and here's how we can extend upon them and make it even better. And just that collaboration with ourselves is what we can do with them. I think that will make people feel a lot more comfortable. But we do a lot of these things already. It's just going to make it easier. It's going to make it better. It's going to make it more enriched.
Well, and to answer your question about the training, and we got the Chromebooks very quickly, and I think before we got them, there was a little apprehension. And I mean, literally, we got them. The kids did a scavenger hunt completely on their own. They couldn't even ask us questions, which was good. I was completely shocked at how quickly they were able to acclimate themselves with the technology. And really, Angie said it really well. If we want to be trained in those things, just use Chrome, and we don't even need to know what a Chromebook is. Basically, as long as we know how to use those tools that you're already using, I think that teachers will be fine. And I can honestly say that out of every sixth grade teacher, I think 100% would say, yeah, we should use them. And beforehand, I think I don't know, I think I'm not a very techie person. Like, I remember when email came out, I just wanted to handwrite letters and things like that. But I just think they're amazing. And the differentiation and the extensions, like you said, the teachable moments, it's unreal, really. And the kids that are high, giving those opportunities to go to sites that they wouldn't have been able to while I'm working with another group, it's awesome. I think that they've been one of the kids said, we were writing these essays and he said, Chromebooks are the best things to hit Batavia in decades. I don't know, something like he was just so excited. So about the training, I think that teachers who haven't used them probably feel differently than the sixth grade teachers that have used them with, you know, what training was necessary, and talking to other teachers is really the best training to get.
I guess this would be a good question for Joanne. Do your division coordinators feel they're ready if we drop these Chromebooks on them this summer?
Definitely. I think that, I mean, I talked to a bunch of teachers. I actually had not heard the apprehension either. I don't know. They don't want to tell me here. But I think what I hear on many occasions is someone just walking by my office and in a corridor that people walk by all the time and say, I just had these Chromebooks. I think about every day all these things I could have done if we had computers at our hands, at our fingertips. But instead, it's sometimes like, okay, so maybe we can do it next year. They're kind of thinking ahead already. So I think the excitement is building.
Do we think we'll have any pushback from the students who are already using other laptops and things like that, like they won't want to use them?
I think they're so, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think they're so desperate to have it as part of their day, which in some cases we have that. We do let our kids use their smartphones at teacher discretion. But I think they're so excited to use it on a much more, frequent basis.
Do you think they'll take care of them since they refuse to go to their locker ever? I have a real issue with that. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I mean, your kids, you know how they, sometimes they don't treat their smartphones very well, and we know that, the parents pay a lot of money for them. But, I think that's part of the...
That goes to my next question. What's our plan for when they break and they get tossed around the bus?
Well,
Can I, before
we
we
can
get to
come back to
those
that
tactical
later.
questions?
We'll stick with the teacher
Lynn, you
Q&A.
had your hand up and we didn't let you talk, so can you share?
You had asked before, how does math look at it? We're transitioning to the Common Core, and there are no textbooks that are really well written right now for the Common Core. And so what we have been doing in sixth grade is guided math, and we've been implementing and finding videos that totally match what the Common Core is saying. We've also found that as we notice that Park is giving us different assessments, and we're learning about the assessments, that different publishers are changing, and they're changing using technology. So if we would like to continue and move forward towards Common Core math, the technology is going to be right there and allow us to do that.
And just a quick add-on for math too, like there's a lot of different websites. I use a different one, and I know that Lynn and some of the other teachers use different ones for math. I use one called 10 Marks, and the benefit of 10 Marks is we can do that as a bell ringer, however you want to phrase it. When they come in, they sit down, they get right to work because they're excited. They want to be on their computers, so they get right to work. Immediate feedback goes to them. So as soon as they're done, you can assign like 10 questions. It's all directly tied to the Common Core. I can look at a strand for the Common Core and say, this is what I want to be able to do: ratios and proportions, word problems, 10 problems. I give them that assignment. They go in, they do the 10 problems. They get this immediate feedback: which ones are right, which ones are partially right, which ones, and if they're wrong, why they're wrong. They can click on a video link to see why, what they did that was wrong, or to help them figure it out. I can, as the teacher, look at a report, and so if one person didn't get it, or it even gives you an explanation at the bottom, like 4 people misunderstood the word quotient, and then you click on that and it shows these 4 people. So you can immediately say, hey guys, come here for a sec, and then I see it based on what this report telling me is that you guys read this problem, you thought it said you didn't understand the word quotient. Do you understand that that's the answer to a division problem? So they can not only get immediate feedback themselves, but they can get that immediate feedback from the teacher, because I can be looking at their score or their report, kind of.
That's not just for math too. They have several things, something that we found for writing. We have it for a different intervention too. It's called Moving Maths. We found we use it on our team. So it's that immediate feedback is huge. I see gaps that we can start on. That live stream that you can do tests, that you can live stream right to an Excel document. You can see, what answers are on there, who's answering correctly, how many groups are, what your groups are, and who you need to go ahead and have small group discussion with who you need to conference with and why, and what are they having the most trouble with.
How difficult is it to to create the differentiated instruction for your class? Like, you have a wide range of learners, of course. Does the program automatically chart that, like where the student is at, or is that something that you have to create prior?
Well, like the MobiMax, for example, the kids will take a pre-test. And for that program, there's vocabulary, there's math, reading, there's all different subjects. So they take a pre-test, and they might pre-test at the 5th grade level, at the 7th grade level, 3rd grade level, whatever. And so then it gives them specific lessons that are geared right at that level, which is nice. Quizlet is, I mean, there's just unlimited amounts of things. That's why it's so good for differentiation, because it can be on different sites. And while you're still working with a small group or whatever, they can be independently, or for bell work, right away, be independently working at something truly at their own level.
You do your whole group, whole group instruction, and then you can have, based on your math data, whatever you need to do to differentiate. You can use whatever data you normally would use, or then you could do your pre-assessments or post-assessment during your, during instruction, however you want to do that.
Or, well, one more thing, on, like, for the math test, the kids' scores range, like you said, from the 4th grade level to high school level. And obviously our curriculum at 6th grade isn't geared towards someone scoring at 10th grade English level. And so by looking at the math vocabulary, kids can independently investigate some of those terms or those vocabularies that will really help them grow. Whereas if just using the 6th grade stories, it's more challenging to do that. So I feel like differentiation is much easier with the technology.
Are there other strategies that you would find as more of a benefit using a Google Chromebook versus a paper and pen type text learning? Like where there's some crossovers, like whether it's highlighting, editing, breaking down vocabulary and stuff like that.
You can do the highlighting with the Google Chrome, and you still can do that. You can also front load, like if I'm creating a lesson, I can create it so my different levels of learners have different activities. I can send it to them as small groups. I can do a basic introduction, and then I can tell them to open up the document I sent, labeled, and it can be labeled the same thing. I just sent it different. It's different things that are sent at the level that they can read, or maybe we've worked together as a resource teacher and class, the team teachers. We can work together and figure out how some of those lessons maybe we eliminated some of the items that they're doing, or we changed some of the wording, and they don't know that they're even getting anything different. So that's
Some
better.
of those skills are still, can we still do those things that you're saying? I mean, we're not, like you're saying, we're not eliminating the crux of the student to teacher, instruction. Where there may not be, a piece of technology in front of you at all times. So what do you need to do to get to that end goal? So we still teach those selective highlighting for everybody, because that's a tool you need to know. What do you need to do for test taking strategies or whatever the case may be.
Do you find that?
Sorry. Go ahead.
Do you find that this helps you collaborate better amongst different teams within the same 6th grade to more or less flatten out the curve of what instruction you're providing, so somebody's not way ahead of in providing instruction and someone else is going in a different direction for bringing the learning along?
You're talking like for social studies or for language?
Yeah,
I think the
or-
PLCs that we have
Okay.
do that. I mean, we do that now within our PLCs to make sure that things.
Yeah, I don't know that they're Chromebook, but technology really, now that we're more acclimated to using the Google form, I feel like our PLC is communicating all the time, like, just share a Google Doc, just share an assessment, just share, so that we can also share, like, oh, I'll just share it to my class, and I'll just share it to this group. So I don't know that the Chromebook's an answer to that, but definitely technology
savvy.
Yeah, more
A little more savvy.
Any last questions for the teachers? I just wanted to give, these are some brave souls that came to spoke to you tonight. I want to thank them for doing that, but before I do, I wanted to just put some faces to names so they don't have credit for being here. So, I mean, I know you know many of these, but, you know, we started with Lark from Gustafson School. There's Kim Oswald, who teaches 6th grade, and then Laura Foote, our instructional coach. And I'm sorry, Laura, I have to do this, but I had Laura for, she taught me sophomore English. And Christina Owens, special ed, right? And then Jean Fahey. And back in the back row there is, oh, of course you know Angie Sutherland here on the end, but Lynn Swider and Lisa Rios. And in the back we had Melody Giles, teaches Spanish, and Allison Jordan teaches math, and Dan Russo, our LRC director, and of course we had a cameo appearance from Tony Millay. So, but I just wanted to give them credit and thank them for coming tonight. And
Chris Payton's
being
going
great.
to say anything.
But with that, I'd like to answer other questions that you have on the plan too. So, so questions that you had earlier. Melanie.
What are we gonna do when they break them?
And so the breakage thing is an area where I don't know what else to do, but to expect that parents and students pay for the damages, because otherwise it would be a pretty expensive cost when, you know, when students are careless with those devices. We haven't selected a device yet. We know it's going to be a Chromebook, but we don't know the exact model. So
There's no insurance we can get for them?
there are insurance options. There's a number of different things we can do with insurance potentially, but we need to know which device we're going to select first.
And what are we gonna do when the parent comes back and says, but Jimmy John took it off at the bus and threw it across the bus and it's not my kid's problem?
It's the same thing I would argue that we do with any other district-owned property at this point, like textbooks or anything else that we rent out to students.
Well, I was going to ask that, Tony. I mean, I know there's lots of concerns about this specific piece of equipment. And I actually probably shouldn't be asking you this. I should be asking Joanne or Brad or Lisa. We have policies and procedures in place when there are issues of another student threw my iPhone across the room, or a student threw my math book in a mud puddle, or a student stole my whatever. We have dealt with those issues. It's just now specific to a different piece of equipment. Am I correct?
Right.
So we will, I'm assuming, work out similar thoughtful processes and procedures that are consistent with our policies and our.
Well, honestly, we'll carefully evaluate them, but I would, don't expect much to change than it does as it is right now. And, you know, oftentimes our textbooks are not cheap. They're pretty expensive. And, you know, obviously textbooks don't break as easily as Chromebooks, and they, you know, but they're still very expensive pieces of property, and they're not, in the material terms, they're not much different than a Chromebook.
Make them work it off so they appreciate the value of it.
I mean, I don't mean to minimize that
The elementary
concern.
students they don't really bring their textbooks home.
But, okay,
for elementary students.
let's ask Clark. I'm putting you on the spot again. Do we have problems, like, do they break?
No, I was gonna say, I've had them for 2 years now, and not one has broken, and they have really good covers on their iPads, though. So, and they have dropped them, but very rarely, because we made them sign a contract. And, you know, the contract, you know, said, I think, I can't remember if the contract said parents were gonna pay for them, if they, what did it say?
I don't remember.
I don't remember. The parents would pay, because I say to them all the time, you gotta be really careful, your mom doesn't want to pay $800.
And you also have procedures in place where, and I don't know that I realized this till my fifth grader was gossiping about, you know, if somebody doesn't secure it, there are consequences to that, correct?
Yes, we have consequences if they forget to, we have a vault, they lock it up in, I call it the vault. And they plug it in there, put it in there every single night, and if they forget before I leave, they lose it for a day. And they do not like that, because then they do everything on paper, and they are not part of these, you know, the work, so they do not like that. And then the second thing is they lose it for a week, and then they lose it for a month, and then if they're, you know, anything inappropriate at all, it's a year. So, we had one yesterday that, not in my class, but another class, that might lose it for a year. So, but, yeah, we have it all written out there. The parents have to sign it too, the kids and the parents, so. I don't know if that's why they haven't broke or what.
And I guess how did those procedures come up? Did you and your team
Yes.
determine them?
Yes.
So I think that's one of the other things that we've talked about is I personally have some concerns with Tony imposing on teachers how you're going to manage them. That doesn't mean that I don't want the district to support this, but I really think that you guys need to have the autonomy to make decisions at every building, at every grade level, in every classroom about what it's going to look like in those classrooms and how you're going to manage them. So I guess my question is, I've got a group of you here who are fans. Is that the wrong direction you want us to go, or is that an appropriate direction that you would want us to go? And I see Steve going, yes. I'm not sure what that means.
I like some uniformity.
Just got the pulse.
But it also depends, I mean, it also depends on grade. I mean, I think the high school's policies and procedures are gonna be different than middle school, and,
Than the
you know, K through
elementary.
2 may even be different than 3 through 5,
Right.
so.
Exactly.
Right.
I think you're exactly right. I think each building is slightly different in their population of students and in what they do and how kids handle the equipment and just in the maturity of the students, and it's going to be different every place you go. And I think the answer is, like Tony said at the beginning, we may not have all the answers, but we'll figure it out. You know, the 2 weeks ago when we were at site visits, you know, Mark and I were talking about, well, you know, we're gonna maybe have all these Chromebooks, how are they gonna get power? Maybe have power stations or something. And the first thing we heard from the places we were at was, you don't need it. You don't need power stations, power docking stations, because the kids value the tools so much that they're going to take the responsibility to make sure that it's charged when they come to school. When they ran out of power, we saw kids sitting in the hallway with their computers plugged in, charging them up. They do it. Everybody figures it out. It's not so different than, you know, technology or old technology years and years ago when people had to figure out what they were going to do with the computer labs and how people were going to get equal time in the computer lab and how were we going to stop the kids from going to places on the computer that they shouldn't go to. Well, we figure it out. But here's the best thing about tonight. You heard it. You heard the energy. You heard the excitement from
I don't think
teachers.
I've ever seen you this
from the
excited.
people doing it across the district and their enthusiasm and excitement. And it's not, where did they get the enthusiasm and excitement? They got it from the kids. They got it from seeing the kids learn and do it. And that's the only thing you really need to know, honestly.
Wow. That was really funny. She's a middle school
Can we
kid.
clap
Joanne.
Yes.
They don't have she was right.
Can I get my Chromebook? Can I get my Chromebook? Door's locked. Can I get my Chromebook? Can I get my Chromebook? Door's locked.
So I think we'll figure out those things. I think we'll figure out, are they gonna go home, or are they not gonna go home? Are they gonna go down to exploratories, or are they gonna do them when they're going to gym class? How are they gonna carry them around? You know, so, you know, like next week, we're gonna like practice letting the 6th grade have backpacks to see what it looks like in the hallway. And what do they do with their backpacks when they bring them into the classroom for the week? You know, because we want to kind of know that so we could troubleshoot that.
Oh my God,
for a
they might
little
take
bit.
food.
I know, it's like, I mean, it's like, yeah.
We had a couple students ask their parents to buy them Chromebook covers for Christmas. That's how much they really wanted to make sure that.
For the piece of equipment that they don't even own, but they just love
Right,
it
they
so much.
really
So
were
it
excited.
came back Christmas with Chromebook covers.
I love it.
that they-
This is, you know, this is students who are, I have students that sometimes are not as engaged as you want them to, and they are a little engaged at asking you to open that teacher's door, and have the key. And then there's, you know, all the way from students who are always engaged and just even more engaged, you know, so.
I just want to do a happy dance. I'm so excited.
Well, I noticed even before we started the discussion, when BFE handed out some grants, there were grants.
I was just.
And you guys,
Technology.
Mrs. Hubbard has a grant, Miss Hubbard has a grant, and you're 3rd grade. So we're not even there yet.
Very excited.
So I found that interesting.
Huge grant, we're very excited. There's already so many things we are attempting to do that align with Common Core. And and that technology is the roadblock that's stopping us from moving forward. And so this is just going to be so exciting. When you guys delivered the check, my class was beside themselves. So not only are they looking forward to sixth grade coming up and knocking at the door, but we feel like we can now do the curriculum the way the curriculum is supposed to be taught. And so we're really just fighting the bit to get going with this.
Thanks, Sharon. Thank you.
Any last questions?
Are they going to take their Chromebooks to Shoals School?
I'm afraid to say anything because I get cut off.
You can go down, we won't cut you off.
I'm concerned on the training. That's a major concern I have, especially after the pilot program and opening it up from 6th to 12th grade. All at once. And I'm going to say young because I'm old. The young lady in the back, Spanish teacher, and I know her sister because she was one of my former, worked under me. I'm afraid that I don't want the devices given, then nothing happens, and then, you know, the training's not there. You know, I wanted to see, and I've asked the question, I want to know what the training's going to look like, because I think that's a very valuable thing on any new piece of equipment. Yes, you've opened me up a little bit, I'll be honest with you. I'm really on the fence on this. You know, you guys talk about dinosaurs, and I thought, well, they're going to shut the old dinosaur up, because Tina was going to ask the question I was going to ask next about training, because training is a major concern I have. And I haven't really heard how that training is going to be implemented. And so I do have an issue with that. Until I can really have some concrete stuff with PLCs or everything else, that's a major issue for me. I mean, I have some other concerns too. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the technology is good, even for somebody like me. I'm using this. I didn't go to this yet. They wanted me to do 2 at once. No way. This is just enough trouble right here. So, so I would like to know, in your work, how do you think the training could look like? At least give me something.
Okay.
Give me something, please.
So I'll give you something, and I think you've already kind of heard it. So from one maybe not quite as old dinosaur to another. My first computer was a Texas Instruments Radio Shack TRS-80, and I was really excited. And I was really excited at the time when my principal, Dave Booth, let me take it home over Christmas break. And I learned how to use that piece of equipment myself because I wanted to. So one of the things you've already heard was that the best training that happens is teacher to teacher. And it's the same way that you probably learned the device in front of you now was colleague to colleague. So some of the things that we'd like to do is to facilitate that. And Angie, you've heard about some things that she's done to facilitate that. But she didn't, actually she did. She stood in front of us, me included, and taught us some very simple things about Chromebook or about Chrome. And then basically she did some designed release of experiences and growth to force us, or at least me, I think, others, to sit down with each other and do it together. Because as she said, it's like, I can't teach, I'm not the dispenser of the information. I could facilitate your learning. If you have questions together, here are things that you can do. Call me, I'll lead and guide. But also, we already have other experts. So, so 6th grade, I've said this a couple times, it kind of fallen into a little area of celebrityism around the district. We have so many visitors. But that's also created a situation of of willingness to help and to share and to communicate and to have others learn together. And just today, just to like at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, whatever time it was, at our SLT meeting, when we're sitting there with our computers and one teacher is asking the question about how am I going to be trained, somebody else leans over and says, I sat in the same position as you a few months ago. We will help you. That's the training. Yes, there are teachers putting in requests for other kinds of coursework over the summer to do digital learning and to get experience going to different sites using Chrome and things like that. All of that's happening now because they want to do it well. So we need to facilitate the experience. I didn't learn how to use this. I could pretty much only use maybe half of it by going to a class. Well, maybe I should have, but I learned how to do most of it by listening and hearing other people about how they use it and what's available to be used. So.
But what I'm afraid of is without the training, and these come out, you go to some of the buildings right now, you have these Mimios, and all they're using it, the projectors, for the overhead. Some are not using the Mimeo as how it should be. That's a lot of money not being used.
Yep.
Now, I'm not faulting anybody per se because maybe the training is not there. You know, and so now on top of that training, on top of some other training, that's where I'm struggling with. I mean, I have other issues. I sat in a meeting with Tony and Kathy for 3 hours, and I felt sorry for them because I had all these questions. But because I wanted to get into more detail on, I'm afraid of what's going to happen. And that's a concern I have. I think it's a great tool, okay? But I don't want it to be that I have to stare at this thing from 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and then I go home and I play games on it or whatever. That's not me, but I'm just saying, the kids. Because then there's going to be no talking this way. And I think we're going to lose out on that. So it's
John, I think that's a big misconception that a lot of people
concerned.
I
have.
think,
Go.
I think you're viewing training as training that maybe when we first got computers, we
Mhm.
might have viewed training as. Training in this is me, I can't, for instance, when I go to something and have Angie show me things, I can't follow and do everything that she does. That's not the way I train. But she can sit down next to me and I can say, I want to create this, can you show me how? She does, I write down the instructions, so I'll remember, because that's how I work. Okay, but for training isn't, training is experiencing, and that's the difference. And that's, I think, what you're worried about is training and having these big meetings where someone is showing you. That's really not the way that you can do it. And what we found is that training is diving in there, someone showing you an app, which we all do, and then saying, okay, let me see what cool thing I can do with this, and then you lay it out there with the kids and you try it with them, and sometimes it doesn't work, and I can say to them, all right, we're trying this, and then we work through, you know, it usually works, and if it doesn't, they usually help and have me.
And I agree with you on that. I really do. I wouldn't want a big room like this in
Right.
training. It has to be, but there's only so many coaches or people that can help you at a
But
time, and that's,
I don't
So,
mean to be disrespectful,
I
John,
know.
but no, but I feel like you are sitting here and telling this room full of people who are telling us it is self-directed and we're handling it and we love it, and I feel like we're saying, no.
You need more training.
And so I guess I'm a little confused as to the conversation that we're having at this point.
And
So-
we heard Joanne say that the division coordinators at the high school are ready, and we heard the Spanish teacher say they're already introducing these apps that we can't use.
And
can you,
actually
what
have
are you
a
gonna
thought,
say?
I mean, if that's okay.
Please.
Yeah, thought. No, but I mean, I think you actually bring up some really good points, because I think at the high school, I think those are some of the feelings of like, am I gonna get the training that I need? Am I gonna be prepared to do it? And so I think you were probably there, and now you're seeing, you know, how you're able to train each other, but I think those are questions at the high school, and I think, I'll stand because I'm short.
Thank you.
That I think that those are things that we do need to think about, and I find that, you know, as a teacher, if I say, okay, we're gonna do this really awesome project today, and this is what it's gonna look like, and you're gonna turn it
I don't understand, what does it do, what. But if I start showing examples, and I say, this is what it's gonna look like, this is how you're going to make this piece, they're like, oh, and ideas start forming in their mind, and then they feel confident to move forward. I found, just going on the visit to the schools, I was like, oh, they did it this way, I can do something with that, or, oh, I loved how this classroom was using one Chromebook for 4 kids, I loved how this classroom was doing this, and I saw all these ideas, and it gave me an example of ways that I think that I could use it. I think that would be really beneficial at the high school level, and I know some teachers already went to the middle school to see during their prep period. I think that could be, if people were welcoming and allowed them to come, would be a really awesome thing, just initially to take away some of the overwhelmed feeling. Because I think they'll see, this is easier than I thought, or this makes more sense to me than I thought. I think that would be a really good option, saying, hey, go during your prep period, go look, take the time. I do think that there does need to be some training, especially for maybe teachers who feel overwhelmed with technology, because if they feel overwhelmed, they're not going to use it. And if it happens during the school year, like if we get them, our first day of school, and a teacher's overwhelmed, they're going to say, well, I can't do anything with it until Christmas break because I don't have the time. So I would think getting them going to see things now would be helpful. I think in the summer, allowing them to have the opportunity to get together with like teachers who have already started doing stuff would be helpful, or with Angie and working with them, so they feel like, okay, over the summer, I can start thinking of some ideas that I can try in my classroom, and it's not as scary for me to try it. I think more it's overwhelmed than.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry,
No,
that's all.
please.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you.
I think what
That's
you're
great.
hearing too, on some levels, is a realization of a vision and a dream come true. I really do believe that Batavia is living its mission and motto, always learning, always growing, and you're hearing the vision for professional learning communities of an organization where instead of individual practitioners finding their own way, that the organization is coming together and building systems to help each other learn and move forward. And I think it's foreign, because traditionally in the old days, it was we sent people off to train and learn, and they came back, and more often than not, the practice didn't change. And that's fundamentally changing. We're helping each other learn and grow, and the systems are here with PLCs, instructional coaches, all those sorts of things. It's becoming a reality. So.
Kevin, were you going to say something? Angie, you've had your hand up forever, I'm sorry. Go.
That's okay. And John, to answer your question directly, there is a plan. And, it starts with some how-to, and you have to do a little bit of that first to get everybody on the same page. And we don't have specific dates and times because we don't have a proposal that's passed at this point, and so we don't have that put into place. Although I have my plans for things that are differentiated to offer for teachers as far as the how-to goes, for the beginner, for the intermediate, for the advanced, that will take place over the course of the summer and things like that. We're kicking the summer off with an ed camp that's a collaboration time for teachers to discuss ideas with one another about technology integration in the classroom. And then, of course, we have that ongoing job embedded support, which in my opinion is the most valuable and the most effective support that teachers have, where they have a coach or someone who is a support system for them, who can help work them through the process with the goals for students and for learning in mind. The professional development is really rarely about the device itself or the tools that you have, because if you don't plan a lesson around a tool you have in your classroom, around a piece of paper, around a pencil, you plan it with the goals for student learning in mind, and then you look at the tools you have available to you and you find out how you can use those to meet those goals. So there is a plan in place. It just doesn't have maybe the specifics that you're looking for at this time, but we are not going to just turn people loose and have the expectation that they are to succeed without support.
I also want to give newly minted Dr. Kevin Skolman an opportunity to share some of his thoughts, because his dissertation was actually on this very subject.
Just completed my dissertation on.
Congratulations.
Thank you. On technology integration, and the study population was this school district. And what I found was that the most significant factor that's correlated to technology integration in the classroom is one's technology self-efficacy. the way that I view my ability to manage and work with technology. And so when you're looking at designing training, you look to the research on self-advocacy as to what are the sources of growth of an individual's self-advocacy, and the strongest force in that are those mastery experiences. Hands-on, one-on-one, working with groups in experiences where I have my hands on it and I can see that what I do, and I can be successful at what I do it, when I'm doing it. And so all of the things that you hear people talking about, well, we get it, we sit down, we have a coach who will come in and help us. All of those things are exactly what the research will tell you need to do to build an individual's self-advocacy. And in order to move people towards utilizing and integrating those tools, as Angie beautifully put it, you design your classroom around the tools that you have available and the tools that you feel good about using. And so if we allow teachers to engage in those mastery experiences, they'll develop the belief that this is yet another tool that I can utilize to really get the best out of it.
I also want to say that as a teacher that has not yet used this in my classroom whatsoever, and I've had the opportunity to, I don't have any concerns about training or anything like that. And part of it might be I'm good with technology.
You're young, just say it.
Digital native.
Just get it out there. Took about 30 seconds and opened up a Chromebook and realized that there's not really anything to learn. It's not even user friendly. It's so easy. And any of my coworkers who have had concerns, I'll go look at one. We have some in our library right now, and you open it up and it's like, okay, I can do this.
Like a laptop.
Couldn't be easier.
Believe it or not, age was not a statistic.
Thank you. I know that we are never going to have every answer to everything that we want, but I guess my question is, are there any other big issues that you guys need addressed or talked about before we can call for a vote?
The cost. Can we just go over the cost plans?
Sure.
Did you say that?
I have that.
Okay.
I have a summary on the
Oh, I
funding
jumped ahead.
side.
I was just trying to skip the rest of your proposal.
Oh, yeah, that would be easy if that's what you want. That is your prerogative as president. So the funding summary, this was shared in the report. This is simply reprinted here. This is the funding source side. I'll show you the cost side in a moment. Significant funding sources are computer lease savings. So we lease all of the computers in the district. There are over 5,000, almost 6,000 computers in the district. We lease them on a 3-year fair market value lease. So no computer, no device in this district is more than 3 years old. The consequence of that is we roll them over every year. A lease rolls over every year. This coming year, this summer, we'll roll over the high school lease. It's about 1,000 computers. And the following year, we'll roll over the elementary lease, and the following year, we'll roll over the middle school lease, and that cycle keeps rolling. If each student has their own device, we don't need to buy as many computers for our computer labs, so we can save money. Projected amount of savings for fiscal year 15 is noted there. Also, of course, we wouldn't need to buy as many other devices to support technology in the classroom for integration purposes, so we could redirect some of our technology budget funds to that as well. Other budget reallocations come from elsewhere in the budget, primarily from what we had planned to spend on online and blended learning this year. That's indicated there. Also, unallocated funds from the capital improvement plan, a one-time funding source of $110,000 there. We'd be up to the board to decide where these funding sources come from in the future if you committed to this plan, but this is what we're looking at for FY15. Of course, a significant funding source is from student fees, and really this wouldn't be possible, wouldn't be fiscally possible to the district without crowding other priority areas if students didn't pay for half of the device. So in this proposal, the device costs $300. The district paying for half of that cost or subsidizing the cost. The students and parents paying the other half, or $75 per year, totaling $150. And in this plan too, the student or the parent would own the device outright after 2 years, and we'd start the cycle again. So, the cost side. Of course, we need additional bandwidth because we're going to have a lot more devices in our schools, and we also need a wireless network upgrade. The wireless network upgrade would be a one-time cost. And this would replace the wireless access points, essentially put a wireless access point in every classroom in the district. and it would support up to 90 devices per classroom in the district. So assuming that I know this is not a good model, teachers don't want to have 30 kids in their classroom, but let's just assume there were for the sake of simplicity, and each student had their own smartphone, and each student had their own Chromebook, and each student brought their own maybe tablet or iPad. So just to make sure that we can future-proof this with as many devices as students could throw at us, this system that we're proposing to you would handle up to 90 devices per classroom, and none of the devices would be starved for bandwidth.
But they'll respect these devices so much that they would not be throwing them in the classroom.
Maybe that's a bad.
Bad example.
A learning management system to help manage the digital content in the classroom. That'd be a per year, per student subscription. Of course, if we're charging student fees, we need to account for families that aren't able to pay. And so there's a cost associated with that, with the district waiving or reducing fees for certain families. And then there are the costs of the Chromebooks themselves. As I noted, the $300 each device. We're talking about all students in grades 3 through 12, so about 3,500 students.
3 through 12
6
or 6 through 12?
What did I say, 3? I'm sorry. 6 through 12. Eventually, all students. And the following year would be K-5. This device, the 519, represents half of that cost each year. So these devices would likely be financed so that Chris doesn't have to pull what little air he has left out of his head when it comes to cash flow. So
pay back with the dirt road gun.
So you can see in this year, if I go back to the previous slide, we had $885 in funding and $890 in costs. We'd be looking for, these are rough numbers too, we're looking for an additional $5,000 in this current fiscal year. Now that, of course, changes in future fiscal years, and I did not put that on my slides. I left that in the board report that is available on Board Docs. But that is a multi-year, 3-year in fact, budget.
I have a question. If this passes, are you going to do any kind of pilot study in K through 5 while this is going on in 6 through 12?
So we've done a pilot study for the last 2 years with iPads in 5th grade at Gustafson School. And I think you heard tonight that it really doesn't matter what the device is. So we're not, the pilot itself we consider successful with an iPad. The teachers are actually preparing to go to Chromebooks next year in that grade level. So we're not concerned about that at the primary level. K2, however, we are concerned. We don't know what that will look like at the K2 level and even lower early childhood. We haven't had any experiments with that yet or any pilots, and we plan to do that in the coming year. And that model would probably be something on the lines of a tablet rather than a Chromebook, because students, obviously, we're not dealing with necessarily readers and typists, so they would be interfacing with those devices in a different fashion. And we probably wouldn't have 1-to-1 at that level. It would probably be 2-to-1.
But are we looking to do any kind of pilot study?
Yes.
Next year?
Next year.
If I can just interject, I know there's 2-to-1, and I know Dr. Wright was here, did she leave? At 2nd grade in one of the
You're
classes.
right, that's true.
Steve Cronin.
Yeah, Steve Cronin is using devices 2-to-1 in 2nd grade.
And he's had that.
Which is?
Dr. Wright, Steve Cronin has 2-to-1
Yes.
iPads, and he's had that for like at least
Almost
2
3
years.
years, I think.
3 years,
The entire time
yeah.
he's been at Gustafson, he's had it.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure it was fully 2-to-1.
He's been able to cobble a number of grades
Yeah,
together.
he's been like piecemeal in it, but I know. So I know he's had it for quite a few years.
I wouldn't consider that a true pilot,
Yeah,
but
but
that's
I
just
mean,
the
it's
efforts
been-
and extraordinary efforts of Steve, and actually some help with what he was working with Deb
Grace McWing.
at Grace McWing, Van Osen, and when they were teaching 1st grade over there, and so she's also doing some experiments at McWing.
I wouldn't call it a pilot, but you could probably speak to him if you want to know how that's working out.
Greg, you said you had some concerns that you wanted to discuss.
Yeah, thank you. I've sat and listened to a number of you talk about this, and I really appreciate all the information that you brought forth to the board, taking the time to do that, and I really enjoy hearing the enthusiasm that this initiative has brought. I appreciate it, and I support the idea behind technology in that, and I've sat and weighed the pros and cons this last month. A lot of pros on it. I feel this is probably the biggest decision I've ever made since I've sat in this seat. It's going to, without sounding melodramatic, it's going to change the face of education in Batavia. With that being said, I personally just would like more time with this issue. I would like to slow things down. The financial element is where I'm having the biggest struggle with, is that we're looking to ask 50% of this to be funded by the taxpayers. And we've just gone through quite a bit of discussion over the last few months and had many of them pros and cons about how we're spending our dollars and that. And with our capital improvement plan, I know some of the monies were going to be brought out of that and then implemented into this. I don't want to see dollars that were intended to go towards fixing buildings and making roofs, classrooms keep from leaking and all that go into technology, a Chromebook. I think that's the most important thing. We keep our physical plant in good shape and invest money into those. So that burden of 50% or $150, so some parents, that may not be a lot of money, others it may. It may not be a lot of money, but they say, I've already invested $500 in a device that my kid uses all the time. Why can't they come to school with that? I've heard that feedback. I know the need for uniformity and all that. I understand that. So with the initiative, you take off with one device and everybody's on an even playing field. I really feel that my hesitation here is that the dollar amount and then the speed in which we're going with this. And I just don't know if I'm ready to say I'm ready to be completely on board tonight with the initiative without taking a little bit more time. I'd love to table this and make a motion to table it, but I know that wouldn't go very far, so I'm not going to waste the time to do that, and set up a separate meeting entirely dedicated to this initiative. But I don't think it's going to happen.
How much time do you think you need?
I think I'd like to hear from more of the public. I'd like to hear from the parents. I'd like to hear from a lot of people, everybody, especially that, you know, this, like I said, this is going to change the face of education, and we're going to be in the forefront. I mean, I don't know where you want to see the school that's already implemented it. I didn't hear that. I'm sorry, I didn't when you went and visited.
We visited a number of.
No, they went out and visited.
Oh, our school. You were in our school,
No,
so
they
you
went
have.
No, they've gone to other
We went
schools.
to Niles West.
Niles West. Okay. Okay.
They
Much
have-
more lucrative.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And so that's my biggest concern, and that's just the very heavy weight on this side of the fulcrum pulling down on me, saying, you know, because there's wonderful things about it. I have no question about our staff being able to implement this and our students getting the full use of it and having the advantage of this technology at our fingertips. I'm behind it 100% in that regard, but I guess I'm just not ready to take the full plunge yet, and that's where I stand.
I have a quick question. So I didn't understand this to begin with, but so essentially they pay $75 for 2 years and then they get to keep the device. So basically it's like a 50% on a coupon.
But then they're going to have to
We have to
pay
buy it.
again the next year because we
It's
are
every
seeing
year.
them as probably only having a potentially 2-year.
So someone that in a couple
So that's
years
a
has a
big concern.
kindergartner will buy basically 6 devices during their time putting that child through school, right?
I also think that that's the model as it's designed right now would appear that way. But I do believe in future years, and the not so distant future, students will be able to afford and bring their own devices where we won't have to worry about the district kind of subsidizing this process. So I don't know when that's going to happen exactly, but we know we had to step into this so that there is some consistency. I do not envision students having 6 devices over the terms of their careers. I think in time as the technology matures, we'll be able to get devices that aren't just a laptop. Could be bring your own device, or maybe let's say it was something that the district provided, but there are devices that are on the market now that are not quite affordable or not quite fully baked, as you would say, with technology that would make themselves be used very easily in the classroom, that are both tablets and laptops at the same time and are much more durable. Of course, that's much more expensive right now, but that's something that's off in the future. So there's new technology coming in, and there's also a chance for us not to necessarily have everything so standardized in the future, where I really don't envision students having that many devices.
I understand, 4 years ago this wasn't around, and 2 years ago this wasn't.
Right.
It changes and evolves so fast and so rapidly that, yes, that's why that's why I have that hesitation. That's why I want to give it more time, because I don't have a crystal ball that who knows what this is going to be like in 5 years. And with it, can't we give this just a little bit more time? That's why I have my hesitation is all. I'm just speaking one.
I guess, I'm
Steve?
confused as to what time, what do you want this time to do? How much
Like, are you
time?
asking, do you need time to process, or you want more time just to see how things evolve? Like long-term time or short-term
Well,
processing,
even during in the
microprocessing?
process we had here, it was implementation of 6 through 12 the first year, then K through 12 the second year.
K-5, yeah.
Or K-5 was going to be brought in, so then we have that. What if we went, I don't want to cheat anybody out of it. If you went with, somebody mentioned the high school first, and then you went to the middle school, and then, I'm not trying to build that's not for me to build that in.
But that's my question, is it just, it's not that you need more time to process, you're just uncomfortable with
The rollout.
committing to
Yeah, I
moving
guess
ahead.
that's what.
Yeah, I guess
that's
diving in,
what I-
0 to 60, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that, there's
But
really
we're
nothing,
not, so
it's a
that's why I'm
concern,
confused.
but there's nothing we can do to fix that for you tonight. We can't give you more
No.
time to get comfortable
Well,
with that
a
necessarily.
couple million popped in our pocket, and
Right.
or some, Bill Gates walks in and drops a bunch of
Well, yeah.
whatever.
That's what, I just
on our-
wanted to clarify that it wasn't necessarily the decision that you were rushed, it's just that this is a big change and we're jumping into it. And Okay.
Steve has something
So there's a couple of pressures that are also, that kind of push the
I think
need
it
for a
was the
decision.
lease, right?
And I just want to cover those briefly. And I completely respect your opinions, Greg, and I agree. It's very fast changing, and sometimes it can be difficult to wrap your mind around. Again, as I referenced earlier, that 3-year lease expires at the high school. We need to replace those computers this summer, and to do that, we would enter into another 3-year lease. And so if we don't make a decision now or very soon about how we're going to move forward with one-to-one, we'd have to enter into more or less a status quo lease to have the same number of computers we have, at least the same number of computers we have there now. And so this decision really wouldn't be open for us at the high school level for another 3 years. Now, at the middle school level, we have been experimenting with the 6th grade and the pilot there, and it's been so successful that we've heard from a number of teachers that can't imagine what sending our 6th grade students out to 7th grade without Chromebooks. And we don't want to teach without Chromebooks, so we have a bit of a conundrum here. And we need to, so we buy more Chromebooks for 7th graders, or we just keep them in 6th grade, whatever happens. But then there's the 8th grade, the one grade that would be looming out there if we did something at the high school and we did something for 6th grade and 7th grade, we may as well just pull the trigger and do something for 8th grade too, and just do it all in one fell swoop. And from a budget standpoint, it balances out nicely, because if we can operationalize this, we're basically rotating half of the grade levels every other year on a nice cycle, that we can carry this forward and not necessarily have to invest huge amounts of money over time to continue the cycle if the board chose to do that.
Steve, did you have one last comment?
Yeah, there's just help sway Greg's mind maybe. There's a couple other things that aren't necessarily directly related to the teacher's classroom. Like right now, we do math testing three times a year, and for the middle school, that means we set up satellite labs in our learning center, and we have to close it for 3 weeks so that we could rotate 3 times a year. So, right. So that we can rotate everybody through there. So our students lose significant time of being able to do work in the learning center that would now become available with Chromebooks. We're also starting some STEM classes, and honestly, we'd like to maybe repurpose some of our current computer lab space to create some space for those classes, because space is becoming an issue. So there are some other things that, there are some other benefits to this, other than what we already heard today.
So I guess we're at a point where, is there more information that you need to actually make a decision, or do we just need to move forward and call for a vote? More information?
Can you just show the payment plan, because I think that's really important.
So I didn't talk about
sure,
fees, and that's a pretty
yeah.
profound impact. And that is in the report. We talked about it
I
pretty
know we've seen it, but I
extensively
think
last
it's important that
I wanna talk about
people who are
fees.
going to watch this on TV, I
Right.
think it's very important that they see that it's not going to be, like for me, I have two kids that if this passes, I'm going to pay another $150 on top of fees I already have to pay, and the athletic fees and everything else.
So we'll talk about fees and the payment plan just very briefly. This, what I have on the screen here is
You just want to call for
a
that?
comparison of fees across multiple districts. And as you heard in public comment earlier tonight, these are not all-encompassing. Comparing fees between school districts is not an easy task. Every school district does something a little different. So we tried to compare apples to apples as best we could. Now, in Batavia, there are additional course fees that are charged over and above the registration fee, depending on which courses you enroll. And of course, if you enroll in other activities, there are additional fees on top of that. So fees, sending your child to school in Batavia and most of these other school districts is no small amount of money. And adding $75 to that amount is little consolation when you compare it to where we are now and where we would be to parents when they're adding that cost. And so
And those costs don't include like that
Class fees are
the
not included on
textbooks
any of
and
those,
the
for the most
journals
part.
and
They include,
because
they do
each
not
class is different?
include course fees. So if you enrolled in a chemistry class, you're probably going to be charged for chemical consumables and glassware, those sorts of things, and goggles. These fees do not include anything of that sort.
or even
These are
like at
just
the
the basic
elementary, that doesn't
fees.
include that I got to pay for that homelinks book, right?
Right, we
These
didn't
are
put
the basic
elementary,
fees to
right.
enroll in school.
It's
And
just
so-
high school, middle school.
There
This is-
are a couple of those that might be all-encompassing, but we went through the list together, and it is really hard to do apples to apples. We include our student athletic fee at the high school so that they can have a year-long season ticket, but some of those, they're up to $50 extra to add, and ours is included in the 119. So it's really hard to do apples to apples, but we did not include individual course fees on any of those, but there are a couple districts that it's all-encompassing.
So you can see on the bottom, the third from the bottom is where we are for the minimum fees to enroll your child in school and where we would be if with this additional $75 fee. And I want to emphasize, we know this is a lot of money. I can't emphasize it enough. I'm about to have 3 children of my own in this district, and I would be paying these fees myself, and I
You will be paying.
I will be paying these fees myself, and this is a lot of money.
And I just think it's a lot of money to have to do it on August 1st in order for them to get their teacher and to get their schedule. And we all know they got to have that teacher.
And that was one of the
same
things
day.
that we asked the board, that administration directly for, is we wanted options for parents because we didn't just want that exact situation that you
So
described.
to finally answer Melanie's question, and
Thank
I
you,
appreciate
Tony.
you being patient. We've come up with 4 options. Of course, the first option being that you can pay the additional $75 fee outright. And it wouldn't just be the $75 fee, it would be all registration fees outright. Second option being you could enter a
And that'd
payment
be Dr. Mon's favorite option.
plan.
He loves
It would-
cash
It
flow.
would be a lot easier.
Loves cash
Cash.
I won't. But you could also do a payment plan option, which would, over the 10 months of the school year that children are in our schools, you could divide that $75 fee by 10, so it'd be $750 a month.
Unless you have 3 kids, then.
Unless you have 3 kids.
Is that the
and
only
you
thing you can
multiply
spread
by-
over 10 months, not the whole registration fee, just the $750?
We actually do payment plans with any family that comes and expresses a need. We did that about 3 or 4 years ago when the recession was really hitting hard. Before there really wasn't any payment plans, and we started to go down the road of having only 2 or 3, but now we're to the point where if a family comes and expresses a specific situation, we'll work out a payment plan specifically with them.
So are we now providing that just as a seamless option, or is that something where we could have, how many students do we have times 25% of those families coming and having to arrange individually, or is that something
Or
they
is that something that's
register
going to be
and
online and
immediate
they can
option?
just choose it?
This would be, I believe, an online, they can choose to do this. The other way is through hardship, through
Right.
some type of waiver
Okay,
process.
so it's a change in
I
practice.
can't do my whole thing.
Yes. No, you can't. Okay, so Tony, explain.
It would be a change in practice, but we could bake that into all the other things that we do so we can streamline that. The third option being if you qualify for reduced fees, you don't necessarily qualify for waived fees. Your reduced fees are, if you're within a certain range of the waived fees, your fees in total would be reduced proportionate to that distance you are from that waived fee. And of course, that's available now, and it would be available with this additional registration fee. And of course, and the payment plan also being available for that third option. And the fourth option, of course, you qualify for waived fees, we waive the fee.
Tony, I just want to ask really quickly, when you did a survey of the students and parents and you asked them how many had smartphones, how many had, can you just go over those statistics again?
Sure, off the top of my head, we did of the families that are registered for the upcoming school year, mostly middle school and high school parents and families at this point. 99% had access to the device in the home of some kind. 96% had access to high-speed internet in the home. 3% did not have access to the internet at all, and 1% had access to dial-up speeds. And 57% of the students had a smartphone.
And 57% have smartphones. Do you know, were you able to figure out where that came from? Was that K through 12 or?
That's of the students that are registered right now, but we could look and see which school they're registered and we didn't get that deep in the analysis.
Joanne, do you know how many students have devices at the high school that they have on a regular basis that are very expensive that they use? I mean, do you know, how do you?
Yeah, I mean, it is a rare occasion I see a student with a smartphone. I can't, at the top of my head right now, I can't think of a single student that I've seen with a cell phone that's not a smartphone of some sort, whether it's the iPhone or Samsung.
I did a survey, because I do a lot of technology in my class with smartphones, so I did a survey at the beginning with my kids, and of 90 kids, I had 3 kids that didn't have.
That didn't have a smartphone.
Didn't have a smartphone.
But they have some type of.
Yes, but I asked, do you have a smartphone, are you able to use the internet, that type of stuff, and I had 3 kids that didn't have a smartphone.
I'm just saying, that's a big expense for a family to have all these kids have smartphones. So I'm being devil's advocate, and if they have smartphones, then I think this is a great investment in education. So that's what I'm saying. That's why I was wondering.
I don't want to rush anything, but
Once again,
I'm asking, does anyone need more information? Any more questions answered? Are we going to have side conversation?
I would like to make a comment. Yes. Is that all right?
Yeah.
I'm in a unique position. My son was in the 5th grade pilot program at AGS, so he had the benefit of having the iPads the first year they came out. I would also like to note for the record, those were not paid for by district funds. A lot of times I hear that the district paid for that. No, it was grant money. So, right?
No, actually, that pilot was paid for by the district.
Oh, that
There were
was?
a number of other things that.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. So sorry.
Pilot was paid for by the district.
Okay, oops. Anyways, so he was in the 5th grade pilot program at AGS. Then he went on to Rotolo in the 6th grade and did not have a Chromebook. So he was
At the beginning of the year.
at the beginning of the year. So he was no technology. It was not fun in our house. So in Mrs. Fahey's class then, Team 6-1, they finally got their Chromebooks in November. All was well with the world. And I can tell you that it has made a big difference in his attitude towards school, learning, the excitement level that I see him learning, enjoying stuff. Jason and I went to the class and we saw, I have never seen kids so excited about learning.
But what I loved is you
that
guys
day.
said you were excited too when you were in that classroom.
It was infectious, and just seeing the excitement from the teachers here today, but was that called quiz? Kahooted.
Yeah.
That was incredible to see how you, on a dime, turned your lesson around, just switched to show us something, got the kids involved. It was very interesting. Another point I'd like to make is how, and you talked about differentiating the students, and you kind of, a couple of the teachers touched upon this, but I think it's important to note that this is an excellent way to help students with different learning styles. I don't know that this has been talked about enough, that some students do better listening, and so you can have a group of students listening to a program online with headphones, you know, doing that. Other students can be reading something. Other students can look at spatial relationships. There's a million different ways you can do things, and this will allow you to do that, and I think that's important to note. I had a bunch of notes made, but I've really seen having the technology, not having it, then having it, and it's kind of a night and day difference.
And to piggyback on Sue's comments, when we were in your class with the Kahoot It, I mean, I'm used to, in my mindset of, you know, thinking back when I was in, you know, junior high and high school with, you know, the instructor spoke to us, we took our notes, quiz on Friday. And this was such, the words I jotted down here, I mean, it was expressive learning, it was collaborative learning, it wasn't, you know, kids sitting there staring at a computer screen just typing away. It was very interactive. You almost couldn't tell any difference between any number of the learners in the classroom when they were doing this competitive learning activity that everybody was bringing everybody else up. You know, it seemed like they genuinely were all a team, which I think back to, again, my days in school when, you know, you had the jocks and the brains and the nerds and the spaz and then whatever you had around there, but you know.
Spaz.
Don't worry about it. But everybody was, it was a team. It was such, I mean, it wasn't a party atmosphere, it was, they were learning and having fun doing this. And they just happened to have a device in front of them that helped facilitate that so much better. And I mean, I have a 5th grader and a 7th grader, and both of them are saying, "Daddy, you're on the board. Can I get a Chromebook?" You know, because they hear from their friends and they see what they're doing, and they want to. Like my 5th grader especially, she's a very expressive learner, and she has that deep level thinking, and she wants to be able to delve into that more, and is doing stuff on our computer at home to try and do that on her own. Which I'm like, yes, do that. So, I mean, it just seemed like the negatives that I've been hearing from people is, I don't want my kids sitting in front of a screen all day tapping away and drooling into a spit cup. It's not like that at all.
You are so expressive.
I know. So it's just such a useful tool to pull an entire class together while having a differentiated learning structure in there as well, and make children want to learn more, make them want to achieve more. And that was in a couple of different classes we went into.
How many classes did we see where they had their Chromebooks open, they had paper and pencil?
And then they had their textbook open
and
as
reading
well.
a book.
Yeah.
And reading a book. I
Yeah.
mean, there were students doing all kinds of different things, and then some students didn't even have it open, and they were reading or.
And the classroom is a community, and I think that's
It is.
what you were talking about, that's an incredible piece that I didn't see was coming, and is just amazing.
I have a situation where I have an 8th grader who has a very traditional lit lang teacher, and I have a child who struggles desperately in anything to do with literature. And I correlate social studies and lit lang very much together. She has a very enthusiastic social studies teacher who does Google Docs, and we had to give permission to use Google Docs at the beginning of the year, and we get Google messages all the time, and they don't have Chromebooks obviously in the 8th grade, but she is getting an A in social studies, and as of this morning, I believe maybe failing lit lang, and that just tells you that she is enthusiastic and is grasping the concepts and doing the reading that she needs to do in social studies, and in the very traditional learning of the lit lang that she is clearly not reading the books. She's not doing the work, and in a situation in which she's and literally I can see her doing her social studies homework on her little tiny iPhone 5, where I'm like, why don't you do that on your iPad? It's a little bit bigger. But she'll be literally doing it on the little screen. And I just know that because she's one of those digital native kids, she wants to do it on these kinds of things. And even in a situation where she struggles and anything that she has to analyze, I know she can do it because she's showing me in 2 classes that I think parallel one another. She can do it. And so I think in the more traditional type of classes that she's always struggled in, she's continuing to struggle, but she's in these classes where you can use these different kinds of learning techniques. You can find that these kids who don't learn necessarily in the traditional classes that they can learn. And then I have a son who's in 5th grade who I've known his entire time at Grace McWayne. He is not learning up to his potential. They are in a pilot, and this is the most enthusiastic I have seen him in 6 years. I have not had to tell that kid to do his homework, and I don't know how long, and he runs up and he shows it to me. He's like, isn't this cool? Look what we're doing. We're doing this math. And so I have 2 that I can't believe how much this has kind of changed their whole outlook on their education. So I was told, my big thing at school board meetings is they never keep the lights on for me when I get home from these late meetings. And I was told, the lights won't be on if you vote no tonight.
Which is a really good segue. I think we've all had a chance to talk. I think we've had a chance to ask questions. So I'm going to call for a vote, Melanie. I would entertain a motion to approve the 21st Century Learning Plan as presented this evening.
Can I, clarification?
Yeah.
When we call that a motion and then it goes to, are we going to go right to a vote? Or will you have a chance, will there be a chance just to make a comment? Or do you want the comment now? Because I have a comment to make.
After we call
So I want to just make sure I have it before the vote.
After we call for a motion and a second, if we get that, then you are free to comment.
Okay. Just wanted clarification. Thank you.
Moved by Locke,
Second.
second by Stoops. Opportunity for anyone to make a comment now before we do a roll call.
I have a comment. And as most of you that come here know, I have to read it, put my thoughts in. So, first of all, I thank you all for showing up tonight. I did get swayed a little bit. I will be honest with you. And I hope I wasn't grilling you, because that was not, my processing is, I need hard facts for me to make a decision, and that's why this is very hard. So here I go. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone that came out tonight and talked or showed support one way or the other. Like all my decisions, I take my time to try to get as much information as possible. And I changed this from 5 pages. I told Tina I had 5 pages, and I made it down to 2.
We were very proud of him.
I know, they were very proud. I tried to figure out what is best for the students, teachers, and taxpayers. With that said, this issue has really put me on the fence without a solid decision for or against. I have reasons for concern on both sides of this issue going forward or waiting for more information. I have spent many hours talking to individuals on the public, getting emails, meeting at RJAC. Thank you very much to Tony and Kathy for a very long day. Seeing the Chromebooks in action at Hoover Wood and Rotolo Middle School, and talking with the teachers, the students, on how the usage of the Chromebooks have been going this year at those 2 schools. I want to thank the teachers at Hoover Wood and Rotolo for letting me come into the classes and watch how the technology was being used. Remember, this was only a snapshot on my part, but it did give me some insight on how they are being used. I also had the pleasure of engaging with the students and talking to them about the pros and cons to technology, and I thank them for being honest with me. I'm a 20th century person living in the 21st century, and with the many new technology trends, with new ideas, devices, things are happening way too fast for me at times. I do believe that technology plays a role in everyone's life, in daily parts of learning, and is a good tool to help anyone. For some, these new technology devices are the next best thing to sliced bread. On one hand, I embrace the idea of technology in the schools for assisting in learning and helping all students in whichever way works best for them. I believe that from 4th grade up, the technology would be a great asset, great tool to help them along with the instruction from teachers. On the other hand, I do not want these devices replacing the basic instruction of knowledge and fundamentals within the means of only using technology. I think going to Google and just doing research is not the best way. and I would hope that's not happening. Instruction still must be at the forefront with the technology devices as a tool. Students still need to learn how to use print materials. My main concerns, teacher training, and I shorten these up a lot. In order for teachers to use the technology effectively, there needs to be training before the children arrive in August and during the school year. Assessment and evaluation. I'm concerned that teachers will be evaluated on their use of their technology and evaluators will not have been trained on the proper use of the technology. Monitoring. Even though we have filters in place, there will be times that children will be using the devices independently and a teacher cannot monitor 25+ students at once. Devices going home on a daily basis in some cases. If devices will be going home back and forth, there's a concern about liability, damage, and inappropriate use that occurs outside of school. Technology coaches. I believe that teachers would need ongoing support on a timely manner, which would require additional coaches. But we do not have the budget for that. The cost and the length of time for each device. I recognize a technology fee is appropriate. However, over several years, a family could spend hundreds of dollars and end up with more Chromebooks than children. So as you can see, I'm still struggling with this on the timing, how much time we really had for this big issue. I am not a fan of having a discussion one month and then having a vote the next with what I think is some missing information for me. I would like to have seen a survey from the teachers without the technology and get an idea from them and also the parents. I have talked this over with some board members and the administrators, and some are in disagreement with me, and that's okay. As I have said, it is okay to agree to disagree, but let's do it in a fair and respectful dialogue in which we have. So with all that said, I believe technology is a new way to present ideas, curriculum, and general information along with research using the devices. But I am not sure we can do this in a short period of time from now to the start of next year. Yes, I heard baby steps, and that is very important to me. Then we should slow down and gradually put this in place instead of back-to-back years, 14, 15, and 15, 16, and hope for the best. I think the 21st Century Learning Plan will pass tonight from talking and listening to my fellow board members. However, for the reasons I pointed out in my statement today, especially the training, assessment, evaluation, and fees, with the length of the devices in use, I need to be cautiously and be concerned, and I'm going to have to vote no.
You can call for a vote, yeah. I do appreciate the time you spent, John. I know you've really agonized over it. So that said, Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Blakely.
Yes.
Gaspar.
No.
Hodge.
No.
Impastato.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Stoops.
Yes.
Drum.
Yes. Motion passes. 21st Century Learning Plan is moving ahead. Oh, I guess I should look to see.
It's administrative comments.
Oh, administrative comments.
I will keep my comments to 20 to 30 minutes. Really, it is just, I know, they're waving, they're like, it doesn't matter, we're leaving anyway. It really just is a big debt of gratitude that we owe you, because we knew that from what board members were sharing from me, they wanted to hear from you. So I appreciate you guys taking all of this time to be here tonight, and I think you really gave people insight to how much work goes on behind the scenes before, you make it look so easy in the classroom, but there's so much work that goes on behind the scenes, and I think we all got more than a sneak peek at that tonight, and I appreciate your time.
Yes. Do any other board members have any comments? We had a lot of chance to talk and comment tonight. Anything else anybody wanted to add? Tina?
I just want to say that this was a very fast decision, as John had said, but I want it to be known that in this time, the board and administration has worked. We put a lot of man hours into this. We have talked, we have researched, we have talked and met and talked and met.
Wait, that just sounds like we're having illegal board meetings.
No, individually. But I know that we didn't. It may seem that it was a very quick decision, but we did every one of us up here and over here has taken a lot of time to come to the decisions we came to. And I think we all did a really great job in coming to those decisions, and I thank you all for helping in that, because it is a big decision. That's it.
Anyone else?
I do,
Yeah.
so I'm not last. I just have a few. I'm just glad to see that everyone came back from the spring break relaxed and ready to go when I walked into the school, so hopefully you're ready for the last few weeks. I just wanted to make sure our students know we have a few weeks left of school, and so I was really going to address Megan and over there that they have 3.5 weeks of school left and don't give up yet. I really want to thank all the individuals that have emailed us about the one-on-one, and I really want to thank Kathy, Tony, and every board members that I've talked to for really giving me insight. And I want to congratulate Dr. Kevin Scomer on his hard work obtaining his new degree. He used it wisely last Thursday. He helped me out tremendously. And finally, I just want to say happy belated birthday to Dr. Hitchens. I did find out.
Yes.
And that's all I have.
You can thank our partners in education for sharing that tidbit with us.
Sorry.
I too want to thank everybody for coming out, and I appreciate all your thoughts, your input, your enthusiasm. It'll be an exciting time for the future of the school district. Thanks again, Chris, for bringing more good news about more money influx into our system, I hope.
Okay.
And especially in 2013, I don't know if any of us will still be around here to see about it, but when that
2035.
2035. Sorry. Freudian slip there, I guess. We're going backward. 2035, and when that TIF district, or TIF comes up. But again, congratulations, Kevin. And Tony, thank you for the book. I have read some of this, and it is interesting reading, and so now I'll get to read the whole book. And thank you for all your input, board, and all the work that you did, and all the staff on this one-on-one initiative. It's been quite a learning experience for me. Again, I hope you understand why I made that decision. I will from this point.
Thanks.
Okay. From this point, obviously, this is a democracy, and I will fully support it. So.
Thank you for that comment. That's actually very appreciated. Greg. Susan?
Yes, I just wanted to say something that, although I kind of was on board with this from the very beginning, I didn't really have a choice because I've seen firsthand. I did put a lot of time and research into this. I asked Tony a bunch of questions and
Went out and visited the school.
Went out and visited the schools. I spoke to, I can't tell you how many different people, parents, what do you think of the fees, teachers, what do you think, I just spoke to Christy the other day, Vanderloon, about, how's it going, what do you think, and I want to thank the other board members too, because we did put in hours and hours of time and diligence and work. And I have to say, I have the utmost respect for Greg and John. If we agree to disagree, and I also agree, Greg, this is a new beginning, and I think this is the future, so it'll be interesting.
Always learning.
Always learning, always growing. So, but I want to thank Tony, because I think we couldn't have done this without you.
We couldn't do this without
everybody. And I think, John, and I know you will help us get there with the training and everything like that, so that's your job too. And I wanted to thank Kathy, because you always do such a nice job in getting us where we need to go.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
You're going to pass too fast right now.
You're rushing me a little.
Anything else?
I just got some quick comments. I wanted to congratulate all the grant receivers from BFE. Also thanking BFE for being such a great supporter of our education system. I mean, they do wonderful things for us, so the least we can do is bowl and gamble.
That's the least you can do. I appreciate that.
Let's see. Also wanted to thank Joanne and Lisa for their efforts with Chip In. I've been a happy contributor in everything I can do, and I'm going to continue to do so, and I would highly suggest everyone else look them up online on Facebook and see if they can do a little, because a little means a lot in this program. And then I just wanted to thank the board for all the work we've done on this 21st Century Learning Plan. Did do a lot of work in talking with children, teachers. My wife's a teacher, so she bent my ear a lot and gave me a lot of questions to ask too, which I really appreciate her for. And also speaking with stakeholders and PTOs and so many people on this to come to this decision. And then I want to thank Dr. Mont for the IGA, getting that together and reading through that. It seems like a good program and to the benefit of our community and our school district for long term. That's it.
I don't want to rush you, but I was going to call for a motion to adjourn unless you have something to say.
I just want to congratulate Kevin on his doctorate. He was my first kind of person I ever met in the district, but he was our first principal, and my oldest went to school, so congratulations. Kevin will always have a special place in our hearts and in the family, so congratulations. We're very proud of you. I just want to say to everybody who will be going to prom next month, be careful and have a good time, but just always remember prom's a special night, but don't make it special, but don't make it tragic. We just want to be safe and be
Not
smart.
if you go to post-prom.
And those are some very good, looks like from the copies I made, it looks like it's going to be a very fun night, so.
Be very fun.
But as we have May is a very busy month for both our 5th graders, our 8th graders, and our seniors, so let's everybody have a good time, but be safe. So,
Not too good.
Not too good a time.
All right, well, that said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
By Blakely, second by Stoops. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.